If I can go ahead and have the assembly come to their seats, please. Okay, all righty, everybody's here. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. This is a regular meeting for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
I will. Tim Hale, are you on the phone?
Here.
How about you, Stephanie Nowers?
I'm here.
Dee McKee.
I am, and I'm on time.
Robert Yunt.
Here.
Moki 2.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Here. Here.
Ron Bernier.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything any members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Yes.
I would like to pull AM 23115.
Okay,
That is on page 8, AM 23115.
is there anything that anybody else would? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Hold on one sec. I'm marked in here. And
Okay,
these are just because I want to get a little more information.
Okay.
That would be AM 23118,
23118. Okay,
AM 23119,
119. Okay,
and I had a question about AM 23120,
okay.
and I think
120.
that's it.
Okay, so you have 3 items, 118, 119, and 120?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else to pull from the consent agenda?
118, 119, and 120.
All righty. Hearing no other changes, then the agenda is approved as presented. And we have some special orders for some special presentations.
Pledge, don't forget the pledge. We're going
Oh, we're gonna move it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
The pledge first, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
That's all right. I didn't put my arrow down. I know we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
But if I didn't put the arrow down, then. So Assemblyperson-elect Bill Gamble, is he still? Oh, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sorry about that, Madam Mayor.
No problem.
We noticed it earlier. We had a plan. Yeah. I forgot about the plan. Where is Talon? Oh, there she is.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Talon Bovey, Emergency Operations Center Specialist with Department of Emergency Services. And it's my pleasure to have the winners from our Youth Emergency Preparedness Poster Contest honored tonight. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing us to do that. And thanks, of course, to the sponsors of that contest. All right, so I will go ahead and read those winners now.
He said, never mind.
Yes, and if you would please come up. Yeah, we'll have them just come up as I read your name. If you want to come up here to the front of the room, and then we'll get you your bags of emergency supplies as well.
I've got copies.
We do. Only one winner was unable to make it tonight, so it looks like we have several here. All right, we have Chloe Cole, first place in the 2023 Emergency Preparedness Expo Poster Contest. Aiden Watson. I'll go ahead and read them all. Castle Carpenter. Urcelia Trevino. Haley Henderson. Ariana Cole. Sonia Saxon. Brody Clark. And Cody Elthins was unable to make it tonight, so. You got that many hands?
Turn around and show the assembly members you're closer.
Got it, guys.
And if I can have Assembly Person 2 come down, please. So on behalf of the Assembly and myself, and not only the voters for District 5, but for all of the citizens in the Matsu Borough, we want to thank you for all you've done and your years of service, not only these last 3, but prior to that. So we have this token of appreciation and something for your office.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm still gonna get my money.
We do not have any meeting minutes from previous meetings. Reports and correspondence, agency reports from the cities. Don't see anybody. School district. I don't see anybody either. Todd? This is, for those of you who don't know, this is Todd Smolden. He is a Matsu director on behalf of the governor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Todd Smolden with the Office of the Governor in the Matsu. I just wanted to stop by tonight. I do have a family commitment, so I need to leave after this, but I wanted to thank Manager Brown and Port Manager Griffin for their testimony at the House Transportation Committee hearing yesterday. It was very well received, and a couple of people complimented both of you through me. So I don't know why they didn't just reach out to you, but maybe they did. I don't know. But you did a great job of really presenting the port as a valuable asset, and it was good to hear the Alaska Railroad make comments about the importance of their role moving forward, that they're all in on assisting different agencies to try to develop the area, and also just the understanding of, I think, everyone in the committee that the lack of infrastructure has really stranded a lot of valuable resources in the Mat-Su and in Alaska. So the railroad acknowledged that, and as well as others. So that was encouraging as we try to develop additional resources in the Mat-Su. I also wanted to just let you know that if there is, anything that I can help you with, I'm happy to do that. I don't know if you have any questions for me tonight. I can certainly take them. I would also like to thank Assemblymember 2 for your service, and also I think congratulate Mr. Gamble, although I don't know. I guess that will remain to be seen. As a public servant, sometimes that's a little difficult, but I'm sure he'll do a great job. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I'm happy to take them if you do.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead and turn your mic on.
So in this meeting that you were talking about with the Alaska Railroad, were they cheerleading for a railroad extension, or were they cheerleading for the 18.5-mile road that we're kind of pushing for?
I wouldn't really categorize it as cheering, although they did express that they're interested in working with the borough and the federal government and the state of Alaska on how potentially we could get some rail built. But one of the issues, which I know Manager Brown has mentioned before, which is that the cost-benefit analysis that needs to be done in order to qualify for grants is really difficult. And so because there isn't an anchor tenant to use the rail and there is not a known revenue source or tariff, that's going to make the cost-benefit analysis on grants a little bit more complicated. But they did express interest in working with the borough and others on trying to see how that rail could get built.
Just very briefly, and I won't take much time, but if you've got a train, it's going from here to there, and it doesn't stop every, 5 miles of stuff to do. So developing infrastructure for a rail line is kind of like, it's not going to happen. If you got a road, building, a store, a parking, whatever, a gas station, that's development of the infrastructure. So to me, just that my two bits, and you've heard me talk this way before, but I'm hoping they'll lean in what I consider to be the right direction, which is the road. Thanks.
Thank you. Through the mayor, Assemblymember McKee, the governor is not, nor I, are making any judgments on what the best infrastructure is. It was just good to have the conversation, and I'd like to thank Assemblymember or Manager Brown and the Assembly for kind of sparking that conversation and promoting more conversations about what to do with the rail bed and railroad.
Any other questions? Okay. All righty. Thank you,
right.
sir.
Thank
Be
you.
safe and
Yep.
enjoy your family time.
Have a good night.
Good night. I don't believe there was a joint assembly school district meeting. And are there any public relations reports? Okay. Mr. Brown, management comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be very brief. The Assembly will be taking up state and federal legislative priorities tonight. We typically follow up the conversation on the state legislative priorities with a meeting at the LIO in Wasilla. So I want to propose that we set up a meeting in December. What we are thinking is the same day as the currently scheduled regular Assembly meeting on December 19th. I do not know if the legislative delegation is open to that date, but I would like to pitch earlier in the day on December 19th if there's no objection from the Assembly.
Okay. Discussion from the Assembly. Okay. All righty, go ahead,
That's all,
sir.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, do you have a report, sir?
No report for tonight, but to let the Assembly know, the Alaska Municipal League Conference is the week of December 4th. That Monday, Tuesday, my office will be down for the attorney's section. I didn't duck under the table fast enough last year and got made president, so we're actually organizing the attorney section. So we'll all be down there Monday, Tuesday, the 4th and 5th of December, just so you know if it looks quiet in our office, that's what's going on. I'll be available by cell phone as always. So
Okay,
that's it.
all right, thank you. Yes, and we have, for the public, we have canceled that meeting for the assembly because there will be so many people down at the Alaska Municipal League in Anchorage. Madam Clerk?
You do not have a clerk's report in your red folder tonight, but your next meeting is December 12th. It's a joint assembly school board meeting over at the school district. That starts at 6. You'll get your normal reminder phone calls. And then the next regular meeting that we have is December 19th.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Are there any comments on the citizens and other correspondence? Hearing none, then they are presented. And Madam Clerk, would you read the IMs into the record?
IM 23228, reporting the conclusion of contract for bid number 23051B with H Construction LLC for a final contract amount of $385,370 for the Dorothy Swanda Jones Building gym floor replacement. IM 23236, reporting the September 2023 free disposal summary to the Assembly. And IM 23140, reporting on the Talkeetna Revetment Emergency Repair Project.
Are there any comments on the IMs? Do you have a comment? Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Yeah, the one on the free disposal summary at which penciled out at, what was it, $891,120. Are we looking at modifying that next year? Is that gonna, that just seemed like a lot of money for an enterprise fund to have to put out and not get the revenue coming in.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Ms. McKee. To be clear, the 891 is the total fiscal impact. That does not, I just want to be clear because I think it's important for the public. That doesn't represent cost. In some cases, that's revenue that would have been generated.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think what we're going to do moving forward is there'll be a resolution probably in the January timeframe to talk about the free dump coupon that we've done and our approach to that. And we will be taking up a rates and fees discussion in January as well. And I think there are some thoughts around potentially some fee waivers that we could take on that might still incentivize, like the disposal of scrap metal, for example. That may help us and maybe putting together 2 or 3 items that kind of still achieve the same effect without having a 2-week scramble to the landfill. So we are going to present some different options to the Assembly in the next couple of months.
Thanks.
Further questions or comments on the IMs? Okay, hearing no others, and they are presented. We do not have any persons to be heard. The next section is public hearings.
First one is Resolution 23104, a resolution approving the state legislative priorities for 2024. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
And is there a staff report, sir?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be very brief on this as well. So the state legislative priorities, we do this as a resolution, then we build a booklet and some vehicle for communicating that to the Valley delegation and sharing with our lobbyists who then takes that to Juneau. So we take items that have been in there traditionally, habitually over time. We also, the Assembly passed a number of resolutions over the past 6-12 months that we also built into this package. So you will see some resolutions that are in here that weren't in there last year. So we try to build this one package. It just makes it easier for us to communicate with the state delegation. And it also helps us when we have one spot where we've collected these things instead of having all of these independent resolutions. It also helps us out when we are asked for committee testimony in Juneau during session so that I have clear direction from the Assembly about what you feel on certain topics and what you want us to pursue as a borough. So I think there are a number of amendments that got published in advance, so we'll see how those go. And I'm happy to answer questions about any specific topic that you see in this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any question? No? Okay, so I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 23-104. Do we have a sign-up sheet, Madam? We have a sign-up sheet, and we'll call on those people first, but then there will also be a time for anybody online and or in person that didn't get a chance to sign up that would like to speak. So, what's that? Steve
Steve Parents.
Parents, Steve Parents.
Hi there, Mayor, Assembly members. Thank you. My name is Steve Perrins II. Our family owns Rainy Pass Lodge. It's a remote wilderness lodge. Want to speak for a minute on the West Sioux Access Road that you guys have listed as a priority. I would strongly urge that you remove that as a priority. You know, Alaska seems to have a lot of history of not doing the research on a project. That rail spur that was mentioned, we've spent, what, a couple $100 million, and now we're trying to figure out what to do with it because we haven't figured out if it's a good idea first. I'm a business owner, an entrepreneur, and any business owner is going to look at a cost-benefit analysis and say, is it worth doing this project? This road is a bad move for Alaska. It's not going to help our economy and create jobs. It's going to grow government and maybe join the road. ADA's own report said that it'll maybe create $1.6 million in wages. McKinley Research just did a report, and it says currently the lodges out there are creating $3.6 million worth of wages, which is an underrepresented value. And if we build this road, we're going to put those lodges out of business. These are remote wilderness lodges that are attracting outside people to come into the state, bringing money into the state, and they're attracting people that want to be in remote wild Alaska. Also listed is that this is going to be good for agriculture and timber. All the spruce is dead out there, the beetle kill, it's rotting and falling down. ADA's own internal report said over 90% of the value in this road economically is if they develop a mine. Those minerals are over a mile deep in the ground, really low grade. It'd be a mile open pit mine at the headwaters of the Squentna River. So if they even could develop a mine, I think we should wait and see if that's a possibility before we build a road out there for a foreign exploration company. McKinley Research report also stated that opening up agriculture out there, because of the travel time on the road, they're not going to be able to compete. It's not a viable source. They've been saying there's over 65,000 acres of agriculture. That's based on a 2014 DOT study on 5 roads. There's actually only about 7,000 acres of possible agriculture out there. We currently have over 55,000 acres of agriculture closely available to the road. But talking to the old-time hay farmers, the problem isn't land, it's that the newer generation doesn't want to farm. So we need to find other ways to create that, and this road is not going to help our agriculture issues. I think we should find ways to have industries coexisting and not just trading one industry for another. We met with ADA early to try to bring up other ways. I'll wrap up here, to make this road work so they could do mining. I'm not anti-mining, but railroad, winter road, a road in the other direction, barging, airplanes. Instead, we're trying to trade this road for a potential exploration company for all the wilderness lodges and tourism out of the state. I'll wrap up because I know I'm out of time, but thank you for your time, and I've done a ton of research and would be happy to share any of the info.
Thank you. Okay. Stefan?
That's another Steve Parents.
Oh, Steve
Parents.
Parents. Do we have another? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and the Assembly. I'm Steve Perrins, Sr. I've been an Alaska resident for about 47 years now. I've been operating in the Rainy Pass Lodge area since about 1977. I own and operate that lodge now as a family business. I'm very familiar with the mining history in that area, and I know that this, again, we hear pro-development, as a reason to have this road, and in reality, it's not pro-development, it's for the mining company. The cost of that road, as my son had pointed out, with the jobs that'll be lost versus the jobs that they're promoting out there is substantial. Most of your tourism that comes up here are looking for the real Alaskan experience. They're not coming up here to get on the road system primarily. That's not the real draw to Alaska. I've just traveled for the last 6 weeks down in the States across a good portion of the country and talking to people that continue to say that Alaska's on their bucket list. It's not to come up here and get in a vehicle and combat fish. I had that discussion with multiple people that come up here to go fishing. What you're going to, I just feel that since the beginning, the borough has really not quantified the real impact of the public on this. The mining company doesn't want a public road. Matsu Borough, your constituents are not going to be in favor of this road if they can't use the road. And the mining company is clear about that. If they did open it up as a public road, it would cost double what what their numbers are to build that road. Who's going to maintain that road? It's going to fall back on the borough with probably some state and federal funding. What's going to happen is a lot of your users in this, in the Matsu, are consumptive users. They count on moose for harvesting and fish for harvesting to feed their families. Okay, I just got back to Alaska at 1:30 this morning, went to the grocery store. Just for my wife and I, $250, $50 for a turkey, $13.99 for Munster cheese to make a sandwich. Your constituents want to be able to go out there and hunt. If this is opened up with a road, that moose population will go to a drawing permit only. You'll take those consumptive users and decrease them considerably. You're fishing out in that Matsu area right now. The king fishing has been closed numerous times. You put a road out there and let all of the public use that. Your consumptive users, your constituents, are not going to be able to do the fishing and the hunting that they want to do today. Our business would be basically put out of business, which develops millions of dollars. We hear about the mining company talking about the wages that they're going to bring over 50 years, comes out to about 32 people a year. So I think that you just really need to quantify what the negative impact is to your constituents and to the general public of Alaska. And this hasn't been done. All of the studies, the study that McKinley did, they started that study in June. We approached them on that and said, you're not going to get the people to participate because you're doing it at a time when all of us that are in tourism are out there working on it, and they didn't. I'm one of the larger users out there, Toadrillo is. We didn't even get a letter for participation. I encourage you to put this on the back burner and do the study on it so that you do it based on the real facts. Thank you.
Mhm. Doug Glenn?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. Disclaimer, I'm not representing the Planning Commission. I'm a commissioner for District 1. I'm representing my family, and we are in favor of building this road. The Matsu Borough planners are telling us we're going to have 40,000 more residents in the Matsu in the next 15 to 20 years, and we need to open some ground up. It's time to build the road. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that didn't sign up that would like to testify?
Hello, I'm Travis. I live in Palmer. Based on what I'm hearing about the road, I'm kind of a mixed bag about it, but I would like to share you my opinions about it. If the road's not open for the public, then it's kind of useless anyway. And if it's not open for the public, and then they're trying to open up agricultural land, who's gonna be allowed? Who's going to be allowed on the road? Is there going to be you have to pay a fee, a toll, or something like that? And also, as far as the mining companies concerned, they're not really benefiting our state. The mining companies are taking the minerals out of the ground, and there's not much economic benefit for our state anyway, because it's a company. They have the mineral rights, and what they plan to do is pretty much dig a really deep hole in there, and and also the chemicals that's involved in refining the ore, they're going to leave it in open pits, just like in the Pebble Mine proposal. And there's no way for it to be used or processed in a sustainable manner. They're just going to sit there forever, and once all that ore is gone, then that road's pretty much useless now. So I just had this idea. You know, why don't they do another study? You know, if they want to have a mine so bad, why don't they build a road to a nearby river and ship the ore out to sea? Because you know, water transportation is much cheaper than road transportation. And you know, just throwing that out to you. And I want more agricultural land on there, but we know nowadays that the fewer and fewer people are getting into farming nowadays. So that's something that we need to look into, getting more people involved into agriculture. So if they want to build a road, you know, maybe they should build a road to a river or something like that, or maybe use some blimps to haul what they need out. You know, again, I have some very mixed feelings about it. I think it needs to be on the back burner for now, and if anybody wants to share their ideas, they should be open to a public forum.
Anyone else that would like to address the assembly?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Jackie Goforth. It seems to be that the request is not to stop the road, but not to build it without doing much more study. And I don't understand why that would be why that would be troublesome. I really think that what they've brought up and what they've said about the impact on the environment and on the business need to be considered. So I would not be in favor with putting it on the front burner either. I would be in favor with putting it on the back burner and doing more study on it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Assembly, and I want to congratulate all you that won your election this year. Good job. I want to talk about natural resources because right now our borough has plenty of them. We just don't have any way to get them to market. And I'm not just talking about mining. We have coal, we have natural gas, we got all kinds of timber. If we could use the timber products, we just don't have a way to get it to market. We don't have a viable income source, an income stream in our valley. We're basically feeding off of each other. We don't have an industry. We don't have, we're dependent on oil. It's the only revenue stream we have, basically. And from there, we get little branches of different things, but that's the main game going in Alaska, and that's kind of up and down. So right now, the valley has all the cards in their hand that they need. We got a conservative governor. We got all our legislators are fairly conservative. All our assembly people are mostly conservative. We got all the things that we need. Now is the time for the borough to act. Now is the best time for us to get the port going, get the railroad going, and let the private industry pitch in and partner and pay their share, because they're going to be the ones that profit. Now, if our resources and the royalties from selling these products went into the permanent fund, I think every single person in the valley would be cheering for this to happen. But just to sell our resources, like our fish and not get any benefit to the people, that would be a very big disappointment. The people need to benefit economically from their resources. The borough owns the port, the state owns the railroad, the people own the resources. Actually, the borough doesn't own the land, the people own the land, and the state doesn't own the land, the people own the land. We just hire the state and the borough to manage it for us. So now's the time to do something. Now's the time to act because we got everything going for us. The world's crying out right now for coal, for energy, for resources, and we're sitting on a gold mine. Thank you very much.
John, can I have you state your name for the record, please?
John Miller.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Will the first person online go ahead and testify, please?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Hi, my name is Margaret Stern. That's Stern. And thank you so much for allowing us to comment today. I'm speaking on behalf of the Susitna River Coalition. We're a watershed organization based in the Susitna Valley and representing more than 14,000 individuals, groups, and businesses. We advocate for communities and ecosystems that are sustained by the resources of the watershed from headwaters to the mouth. Thank you again for taking the time to consider the state and federal legislative priorities. But what the Susitna River Coalition and our entire community is concerned about is the inclusion of West Susitna Access, item C and RS 23-104. Constituents of the Mat-Su Borough have repeatedly voiced opposition to this project. In ADA public meetings, the public voiced overwhelming opposition and asked really good questions that ADA still hasn't answered. During Mat-Su Borough public outreach that y'all conducted in 2022, 75 to 80% of the public was opposed. During the 2023 DOT draft STIP plan, 87% of individuals and the online comments were also opposed. Throughout the entirety of this, the Mat-Su Borough Fish and Wildlife Commission has voiced incredibly strong concerns. And the Borough Assembly, as you have cited, has never actually come out in support of the project, but decided that they would like to learn more. So stating continued borough support is inaccurate in this item. Additionally, the past mayor, Vern Halter, was concerned about the project because ADA has been a poor business partner to the borough in the past. And is ADA here today to support the project that they have? The public is showing up and voicing opposition. In addition to repeated adamant public opposition to the project by borough constituents, whether public or private, there are many economic reasons that the Assembly should not support this item. There is no clear indication of how much the project would actually cost or what the actual route of the road would be. The cost estimates provided by ADA are incredibly outdated, and the members of the Mat-Su Borough should not be footing the bill to build and maintain a road that will get utilized by mining corporations, and which it's unclear the extent to which they would get access to it. If we're looking at other projects in the state, the Cooper Landing Bypass project has cost the state more than double the original cost estimates. And we anticipate that this ADA project will similarly go over its already greatly outdated cost estimates. Our borough roads are in disrepair and need attention, and the money spent on this that you are saying should be spent on this project should be allocated toward projects that will actually benefit borough residents, not special interest groups. Additionally, I'm not entirely sure that it's clear what the Borough Assembly is voting on in support of if they approve this project. The line item is unclear whether this resolution is support of the recently allocated DOT portion of the project or the entirety of the route. And that should be clearly defined if you're to move forward and be clear with the public. Additionally, it seems like a huge waste of funds that the borough would spend money on a redundant 15-mile access road that is state maintained into a region where there is already access. A mega bridge across the Sioux is expensive and would dead end. And so that's a misrepresentation of the project that will clearly join.
Ma'am, can I have you wrap it up? Ma'am, can I have you wrap it up? You're over your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So I believe that this is a misrepresentation of the project, and I think that the two projects are going to connect. And the Assembly has been voted to represent the public, and the public should have a clear idea of what the project is.
Ma'am, will you wrap it up, please?
Thank you so much for your support, and have a great evening.
Mm-hmm. You also. Thank you. The next person that's online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Rod Arno. I'm the policy director for the Alaska Outdoor Council, statewide organization since before statehood. We've got thousands of members here in the Mat-Su Valley. And the Outdoor Council is totally supportive of having the borough continue their support for the West Susitna Access Road. If the state can't build a road on state land to a public resource, financially, the state is not where those who worked on the Statehood Act had hoped that the state would be self-sufficient. We're totally behind the project and we're participating in it as the Outdoor Council has in the past, to make sure that the conservation regulations dealing with habitat, dealing with the wildlife that's on there, dealing with allocation is all worked out through a process that no other place in the U.S., much less the world, has in our common use allocation of fish and game and care for their habitat. So, Mayor, I want to thank you and the Assembly for supporting the project, and the Outdoor Council will be there in the process of making sure that conservation is assured as it goes through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next person online, please.
Yeah, this is John Lamborn and my wife Kit, and we're business owners in the Mat-Su Valley. We've been working on this road and working with Rose Resources since Sean Parnell was in office, and this road route has been considered and established. And then Ada came in, and it opens up that entire area for borough access. My family and everybody I talk to supports this road. So why can't we get another road in this state? Where everybody's jammed up on Hatcher Pass, moose hunting, and crammed into Deshka Landing, fishing, and this road provides another boat access on the Susitna River. It's built for the public and for minerals production and for oil and gas and for timber. The spruce are having a rough time right now, but they're still, if you talk to the loggers and the firewood people and the people that are cutting firewood or cutting wood for sale, they're like, let us out there. We could make money. So I think it's a good thing for the borough and for the valley. And, in the long term, if those mines go in, that's thousands of jobs, plus $100,000 a year incomes. So just building the road provides, the bridge is $60 million, and that's all spent here in the valley. So we support the road. Thank you for your time. I'm glad you guys are there to listen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Is that all that we have online? Okay. One last chance for anyone here that would like to testify. Okay, hearing no one, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt resolution 23-104.
And discussion, I believe there's some amendments. Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
So we're not talking right now, what we're doing right now has nothing to do with the West Susitna Access Road. It's the whole package, or we're going to go at it one at a time, or what are we doing?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
The entire resolution is open for discussion. That includes West Susitna access.
Okay. So could I make a comment on?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Three things that when I was reading over this thing, and I remember when we were going through the testimony, and as somebody online, I think it was said, something like 87% of the people said, no, we don't want to do this. So when I read continued support for the West Susitna Access Road, those words, that's not what we did. What we said is we want to learn more. We want to send it to Department of the environmental folks and see how feasible this is. To me, to say continued support is not accurate. We said, tell us more so we can tell whether or not we're going to support it. So I can't support it in the language where it's currently, the way it's currently written. So talking about private industry versus government, if something's really worth doing, private industry will do it just like they did with the pipeline. So when government has to get behind it, that says, actually, maybe this isn't as good an idea as we think it is. Ada, when they were here, consistently said, we're not doing this for the mine. Yeah, you are. It's going to have other benefits as well. But that was the first push. And then finally, there was an article I wish I brought with me sometime in the past 6 months. It said Ada's success rate in the state was -6%, -6 of the projects that they had put forward did not go very well. So I agree with the people who's, I got 1 foot in development and 1 foot in nature. I'm kind of like in the middle on this, but I just, as several people said, I don't think now is the time to just say, let's go ahead and do this. We don't even have the environmental report on it yet. So how we can tweak that to make it more accurate, reflective of what we actually did, would be something that I would like to see.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, comment?
Yeah, I'd like to echo some of the thoughts that Ms. McKee stated. You know, when this whole thing came about and the process began, shortly after I was elected 3 years ago, I actually delayed the process and stopped it for a while because I wanted Ada to have more public outreach, more meetings, more mailers, communication, whatever it may be. And I too, right? Like I have a cabin out here on the Big Sioux, and I have another cabin on the other side of the Alaska Range. I spend a lot of time in the woods every year, and it's like priceless to me that we protect it. You know, our fish, our moose, everything. You know, so I was really torn on this. So for me, the delay was I wanted to make sure we were going to take environmental concerns into consideration and that public outreach would be done. By us allowing it to move forward, which we eventually did, it didn't mean we were approving the project. It just meant that we could continue with studies and different things. And so, you know, I'm really torn on this. Like I said, would I love a road to never be there? Of course, but that's also very selfish of me because, as I stated, my mom and brother and I have a cabin on the Big Sioux, and then I personally have one on the other side of the Alaska Range. You know, but I don't want to take myself into consideration when I think about these things. Do I think that we could build the road and get out there safely and not hurt the environment? Of course I do. We're doing it all over the world. Everybody's doing it, right? And I know there's you know, big groups of people, as mentioned, that are supportive, big groups of people that are not. But I do want to talk a little bit of, and I apologize I didn't mail this sooner or email it. I can't talk to more than 2 assembly members or the mayor and 1. And I did email this to the mayor. And so, but this is I can talk about it now because we're in a public setting. But there was a poll done of only Mat-Su Borough residents, folks that live here, done earlier this year. And it was overwhelming support, 60 to 65%, depending on how they were asked on this project, that they wanted to see it. We talk about, I don't want to call it the failures of the railroad, but maybe the, you know, someone said, I can't remember how it was stated earlier, but we haven't added any rail in the state in 100 years. Right. So since the railroad became an organization in 1923, this is the centennial of that, we've not added any more rail. It's possible that we went backwards, actually, because they've shut some of it down. So if we're going to access lands, if borough residents are going to have more places to go, I assure you it's probably not going to be because the railroad produces that for us. It's going to be a road. I am adamantly opposed to the borough using our own money to build this road. I'm adamantly opposed to the borough maintaining it in any way, shape, or form. If the state of Alaska and private sector want to team up and get this done in some way, shape, or form, I would support that. But I just want to put that out there again. I'm adamantly opposed to the borough paying for this or maintaining it, right? As far as public access is concerned, yes, no. I've heard good arguments for both. I have a friend that guides out in the area, and he thought, well, maybe it'd be a good idea if we could use it to get here, right? Well, in all fairness, sir, if you can use it to get there, so can everybody else. So if you've been rivering in your stuff or flying in your stuff for all these years, I would highly recommend keep doing that. I think there would probably be some sort of combination if the road ever did get built, where a good chunk of it would be available to the public, and then a good chunk of it would not be at the end, right? And so it would open up some lands for the borough, and then it would protect the lodges and the guides out there and the developers, right? From having public just coming up to a mining site. I imagine there would be some sort of hybrid model. So that's, like I said, I just, and I can, the clerk can email this out to everybody tomorrow for them to see. I'm sorry I couldn't talk to everybody about it before, but that's obviously an Open Meetings Act violation. This poll's available for anybody who wants to see it. And again, it was just borough residents. Some highlights of it were, it was 50% male, 50% female. Age range was, let's see, sorry, 27% were under 45 years old. 45 to 54 was 20%, 55 to 64 was 28%, and 65 and up was 28%. So it was a very broad spectrum of our residents. And then, I've had people say this is, and I don't like hearing this because I'm not a partisan guy. It bothers me when people say this, but this is just the Republicans trying to go ram stuff down people's throats. Of all of these people that were polled, 344, only 32% of them were Republican. So things to take into consideration. I don't know if this road should be built, to be quite honest with you. I know if I voted no, it'd be from a selfish standpoint because I spend a lot of time out here. If I vote no, I want it to be because that's where the facts lead me. At this time, I don't think we have those facts, and I do think we should support moving forward so that we can learn more. That's all we're doing at this point. We're not approving the road getting built. We're approving learning more. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion from the assembly? Yes.
Just to throw it back, when you use the words continued support, that says, hey, we're all in, and we're not. Obviously, just people in this room, people in the survey, people up here, we just want to know more. So I think those words are very misleading. And 10 years from now, when somebody looks back and says, well, they supported it. No, actually, we didn't. We wanted to know more. So I think I'm not the one to make the change in that language, but I wish somebody would.
Okay.
I'll agree with you. I'm not saying that the support has to be continued forever or continued support. I'm just saying based on these residents in the borough, it was 2-to-1 support. That's all I'm saying. So that's pretty overwhelming, right? So thanks.
Yeah.
Adam,
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to wait for this amendment, but since we're starting with West-Susitna, I have a question for Assemblymember Yunt, and then I do have an amendment to propose. But do you know who conducted that poll or on whose behalf?
The one that.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
go
name
ahead,
of the
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, sorry. The name of the organization is Dipman. I don't know who is on behalf of it. It really doesn't matter to me. Yeah, it was done by a company named Dipman. Sorry.
Dipman.
Okay.
Yeah. Dipman. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I could make an amendment, I would move to amend Resolution 23-104, Item C, continued support for the West-Susitna Access Road by inserting the words publicly accessible in the first sentence after the words design and construct. So it would say design and construct a publicly accessible access road to open vast acreage on the west side of the borough. And just briefly, I've heard two things from the public on this, that if the state is going to spend the dollars to build the road, they want it to be publicly accessible. And then echoing the second thing would be that it be state maintained, that the borough doesn't end up with a large bill that keeps us from keeping up with our current roads that would undercut that. So this first amendment is just to insert the words construct a publicly accessible access road.
Okay. Discussion.
Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Assemblymember Hale.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I support this amendment. I absolutely do not support the state spending public dollars to construct a private road. So I'm definitely gonna support this public portion of this amendment. I would like to offer a secondary amendment to strike the word continued in the title.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with the primary, so you can't do that.
I'm sorry, the clerk says that that doesn't have to do, anything to do with the primary amendment, so we will have to vote on this amendment first, and then if you want to make your amendment.
I totally understand.
Okay, okay, all right. So further discussion on Assemblyperson Nauer's amendment. Deputy Mayor.
I think at the first sound of it is great. I agree. If the state's building the road, it should be publicly accessible, right? It's our tax dollars collectively, so that we should all be able to use it collectively. My concern with this is if we box ourselves into a corner right now and say these mining operations want to pay for some of this road later, does that mean that we have to let people just drive right up to the mine? Because I can tell you that's not how it works on the North Slope, nor should it. And so that my concern with this amendment at this time is that we're boxing ourselves into a corner. I would like to see the mining companies help pay for the road. That's for the state to determine, by the way, what percentage or whatever. But I don't, if they help pay for some of the road and they want to keep their areas, safe of just random people coming in there. And really the one guide that I talked to out there, he didn't want people all the way to the end of it either. And I told him, I said, I have a feeling that probably wouldn't happen because it may not be very safe for people to just drive into open pit mining operations. Right. So I just, the amendment at first sounds great to me because I believe it should be publicly accessible, but I don't want to box ourselves into a corner where that means we say we want 100% of it to be that way, even if maybe the mining operations help pay for it, or even if it means it's dangerous if people can drive into these. So for that reason, I cannot support this amendment. I think at this point, we need to learn more about the project as it goes forward before we determine the structure of that. So that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Further
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that the only portions of the North Slope that the public is not allowed onto are the portions that have been built entirely by the oil companies. Dalton Highway goes right up to Prudhoe Bay, and you can drive all around Prudhoe Bay until you get to the East Gate or the West Gate. And once you cross the East Gate or the West Gate, those roads were built entirely on the oil company's dime. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
That's exactly what I meant. The state built the road all the way to the North Slope, and then the developers built the road after that. I've driven all the way to the North Slope to go sheep hunting and caribou hunting, but I did not drive into the oil field. You're not allowed to, right? So it's exactly what I was trying to say.
Thank you. Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I read the whole survey. I'm one of those people because I do a lot of phone banking for folks. And so I very much believe in this. I take surveys. I'm one of those people. I've never heard of this survey. Has anybody on the assembly? Did you guys get this survey? Anybody raise a hand? Nope. Anybody out there? So nobody in this room.
Well, what percentage of the people did they?
Who did they talk to?
Yeah, there's lots of surveys that are done all the time, and it's, they don't call 117,000 people in the borough.
I do know that, but I just think it's kind of funny when something like this comes out. I would love to have taken it. I'm not sure how I would answer some of these questions, but when I see a room full of people who are obviously interested in this kind of thing and on the phone and everything else, and nobody took the survey, nobody even knew about the survey, I'm just thinking maybe we need to do something differently. Because if a lot of people didn't get it, then obviously when you take a survey, you're a minority speaking from the majority. But geez Louise, this is a real big deal. I'm with Rob and anybody who's saying, put on the brakes here. Let's see where we're going with this. Don't say no,
Madam Mayor?
but don't say yes.
Yeah, well, okay, we need to stay to what's called. And I would just say that Dittman is a very reputable company. So anyway, yes, Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
I just wanted to come back to what Assemblymember Yutt was saying, and I certainly understand that there might be a portion of the road that you would want to have industrial at the tail end, potentially. I think but the concern on the flip side, by not saying publicly accessible, is that the concern is that what is going to be built is a private industrial road, and that people are not going to the people of the borough are not going to be able to have the benefits of this road. So I hear what you're saying, but I do not think putting these words in there boxes us into a corner. If Ada comes back to us and says, hey, we want the first 30 miles of this to be publicly accessible, but the last 5 really makes sense to, X, Y, and Z, to have those be restricted for, whatever reason, then I think we could modify, but I think we could modify our support. We could come back to the assembly and reconsider, but I do think, out of respect for the public and their comments about making sure that a road that's built with state dollars that they have access to, I think we need to go on record that that's what we'd like to see from Ada. And if we don't put that in, we potentially are supporting a road that would be off limits to the public. And I don't think that would serve our borough residents well.
Okay. Mike, you have some comments?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah. Is that Assemblyperson Hale? Yeah, go ahead, Assemblyperson.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to kind of build on that a little bit. If a mining company wants to build a road out there and put a guard shack on it and control access, they're more than welcome to do that. That's how they built the oil fields up here. But if the state is going to spend money on it, then it needs to be a public access road.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor to the assembly, just to provide some context. So since the last time the assembly took action on a priority involving this project, in July, the state DOT did include a separate project for a public road to get across the Big Sioux. So that would, if it's in the STIP and it's built by DOT, it would be a public road. It would absolutely have to be a public road. And it would likely be a DOT maintained road. Now, to speak to that for a second, just because we are a second-class borough, there is no road service area out in the West Susitna area. So the borough has no legal authority to maintain any roads out there, even if one were constructed. And so what you're really seeing happening is the state's making a move at the state level to essentially divide this into essentially 2 sub-projects, if you will, where DOT would take on building a public road across the Big Sioux. And I think the question is, who's going to build the remainder, if it were to be built, is to be determined. It might be a public road. It might not, because it might be built by private funding if that's where Ada takes the project. But you're seeing essentially Ada take on everything past the Big Sioux, DOT taking on up through and across the Big Sioux, and that section would clearly be a public road. So just so that you have that detail and understand, and for the public, so that we, because that has evolved over the past year.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Forgive me for not knowing this, but question for the managers. Do we know the lineal mileage of that portion? So the first portion that you're saying that would be across the Big Sioux and would for sure be open to the public, do we know how much of the mileage that is?
Yeah, I would be really reluctant to put that on record because I'm not certain what that number is. I can certainly get that information. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay, and then I have a 2-part question, and the second question would be for the attorney. The first portion of the road, which we don't know the mileage yet, and that's okay, but the first portion is going to be start and take place on borough lands that are not controlled by the state. They're controlled by us, I believe. Is there any way, I believe some of the road is on lands that we control. Anyway, I guess whether it is or isn't or however long, my question is, if it's a borough road or if it's a road on borough-controlled lands, not state-controlled lands, could they even stop us from making it public? You know, we have to give permission for this to move forward. My understanding was a few years ago, for this to even happen, the borough has to eventually give permission, which means we have to agree that our residents are not getting hosed. Does that make sense? So is there anything they could do to stop us from making the first part public?
Only if they took ownership from us. They could condemn it potentially. Like if we refuse to give borough lands to the state, there is a mechanism in state law that the state could try to condemn land from us. But I don't see that happening.
Is that a majority vote or a supermajority to do that?
To condemn land?
Yeah. Is that just a simple majority of the House and the Senate?
Oh, I don't think it takes the legislature. I'd have to look.
Okay.
I don't think it's a realistic probability. I mean, if you have to cross borough lands, I mean, we have a good relationship with the state. We have a good relationship with our delegation, with the governor's office, with DOT, with everybody who works over there. I think if you have to cross borough land, the borough definitely has a say in saying, no, if a mining company comes to us and at our local level, you are in control. The mining company comes to the borough assembly and says, we want to build a private road across your land. It's up to the borough assembly to say yes or no, right? The only difference here is it's the state. So there's a more of a political relationship. I mean, that is a way it could happen though. I don't think it's a very realistic probability. It's almost unheard of.
Okay, go ahead.
Through the mayor, we did, a group of us from the Wasilla Chamber Government Affairs Committee met with Commissioner Anderson from DOT last week, and he confirmed that's, if it's in the STIP and that's how it moves forward to construct that segment of road, it must be a public road. It's not up for debate. You can't use federal highway dollars or federal road dollars and make it a private road.
Awesome.
At least for that segment. Now, again, clearly, what's beyond the Big Sioux, if ADA continues to progress that I suppose that could be a private road if it were constructed with private dollars, as has been discussed tonight.
Thank you. So we'll vote on the amendment.
Sure, we know we're on an amendment. We haven't talked about it in a while.
It's true.
I call the question.
Okay. This is on the amendment. Right, but you'll be first voting on the call of the question, which takes 2/3 to stop debate. So the first vote, go
Is there
ahead, Matt.
any objection to calling the question?
Okay, is there any objection to calling the question? Okay, hearing no objection, then the question has been called and approved. Madam Clerk.
If I can get the members in the room to go ahead and vote.
This is on the amendment.
To add the words publicly accessible. Assemblymember Hale.
Yes.
Assemblymember Nowers.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, it failed with Assemblymember Bernier, Hale, and Nowers in support.
Okay. Ready? So,
Madam Mayor.
okay. Assemblyperson Nowers, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, I have a second amendment to that same item on the West Susitna Access Road. So this would insert the words, I'm sorry, I'll read officially. I move to amend Resolution 23-104, Item C, continued support for the West Susitna Access Road by inserting the word state maintained in the first sentence after the words design and construct. So it would read, design and construct a state maintained access road to open vast acreage on the west side of the borough. And I would just say I appreciate the comments of the manager that there's no way we don't have a road service area in that area, but I just like to have a little bit of insurance that that we don't end up with something in the borough's lap to maintain that the state constructs, because we have such trouble maintaining our existing road network as it is. So it sounds like, just like with publicly accessible, that this is how it's going to be done. So there's no harm in adding the words in just to, have a little bit of insurance and make sure we were able to take care of our own roads in the borough.
Okay, Deputy Mayor. Discussion on the second amendment.
Yeah, I fully support this. I do want to remind everybody, though, that this is just a resolution, so it will not guarantee, nothing we do tonight is going to guarantee that it's a yes or a no. So I do agree the state should maintain it if they're going to build it. Obviously, we're not going to build this with borough money. We know that. So it will be the state building the road if it happens. The state should maintain it, or the mining companies, or a combination of both, whatever, not the Matsu Borough. So I support this, but I will say this is just a resolution. So maybe not want to get too lost in the weeds, because none of this is going to be final product later anyway. So.
Any more, Assemblyperson McKee?
Could you just restate the Ms. Nauer's amendment?
It should be in your red packet.
She did read it a little differently, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's to add the words, bear with me, just state maintain. So then the first sentence would read design and construct a state maintained access road.
Okay. So it's
Okay,
different
so
than
that
what
means
we
it's a
had
state
here.
does.
Okay.
So it's a state.
So did you hear that, Assemblyperson McKee? You heard it. Okay, good. Further discussion on amendment number 2. Any objection to amendment number 2?
Clarification.
You got a
The
question,
clarification.
sir?
There's a word publicly, and that one is based, kind of designed this terminology based on if the previous one passed, correct? So now that one failed, the publicly accessible, the word publicly needs to be removed, correct? Because I believe,
Madam Mayor.
I just want to clarify that.
To Assemblymember Fonoff, she did not read those words into the record. What she read into the record is design and construct a state maintained access road. So publicly accessible was
Okay,
no longer a
just
part of the amendment.
clarification.
It
Thank
is
you.
in the writing, but that's not what she read.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion on amendment number 2. Any objection to amendment number 2? Okay, hearing none, then amendment number 2 has been adopted. Further amendments to resolution 23-104.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I have an amendment here if I can pull it up.
Okay.
Here we go. So I move to amend resolution 23-104 to include the following under borough action priorities and insert it under A, support for Department of Transportation and Public Facilities road projects. Old Glen Highway milepost 1 to 18. The borough requests ADOT and PF designate the Old Glen Highway as a highway safety corridor and fund the planning, design, and construction of a multi-phased improvement project to address traffic safety concerns and ensure adequate alternative access to interior Alaska. Resolutions from the Butte and South Snake River Community Council support this action. Speak to it briefly, if I might. This is something that Representative Johnson came to me with, Delana Johnson. She's trying to get some movement on some improvements out there on the Old Glen. She came around to the community councils, and they both passed resolutions in favor of this, and she would like the borough's support so she can show the rest of the legislature this is something worth pursuing.
Okay. Discussion on amendment number 3, right, Madam Clerk? Okay, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Great job, Tim. This is an awesome amendment.
What did he say?
He said it was a good amendment.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Is that where, when you, and Moki was saying, confirming it, and I'm sure he knows what you're talking about, where you're coming out from Anchorage and you don't keep going on the main road, you go out by Goat Creek and all that back around through, is that road they're talking about?
Assemblyperson Tim, is mile 1 close to Palmer, or is it on the others?
Mile one is at the interchange with the New Glen. So down at the other end.
Okay. Yeah, so your advice was given to you correctly. Any further discussion on amendment number 3? Any objection to amendment number 3? Okay, amendment number 3 is adopted. We have some more amendments.
May I move one here? And I want to ask the clerk, do you want me to read the title of it, or do you want me to read the entire thing into the record? Sex trafficking penalties.
I don't know which one you got. I got a number of them. Sorry.
I move to amend resolution 23-104 to insert this item at the end of the borough action priorities as follows. Support increased penalties for human and sex trafficking crimes. The Assembly supports House Bill 68 and Senate Bill 66 to strengthen Alaska's existing human and sex trafficking crimes to result in more successful prosecutions and deter new crimes of this nature. The state of Alaska has one of the highest rates of trafficking per capita in the United States, according to the FBI Crime Data Explorer and the Alaska News Source, respectively. Alaska's rate of sexual assault is nearly 4 times the national average. The child sexual assault in Alaska is nearly 6 times the national average. House Bill 68 and Senate Bill 66 increase the penalties for all forms of trafficking, placing the most serious classifications on those crimes that use force to traffic an underage person into sex work. These bills also provide legal protection and life-changing tools for trafficking crimes. And if I may speak to it a little bit.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I don't have it in front of me, the legislation that passed in Florida. So, but my understanding is, and the way I read it, is the bare minimum for sex trafficking children in Florida now is life in prison. And I think that is a good starting point. I don't think that's actually far enough, but it's a starting point. And so that's what brought about this resolution. There are House bills and Senate bills that will strengthen this. And I think we need to put it on the record that we support this. So that's it.
Any further discussion on amendment number 4? Go
I
ahead, sir.
totally support this. Thank you, Rob.
Okay. Further discussion on amendment number 4? Is there any objection to passing amendment number 4? So, hearing none, then amendment number 4 has been passed. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. I guess you have a few more.
Amendment number 5. I move to, this is the Port McKenzie Highway, so the clerk is aware.
Okay.
I move to amend resolution 23-104 to amend borough funding priority number 3, Point McKenzie Highway, and change the title to Point McKenzie Multimodal Transportation Corridor. Remove the existing narrative and replace it as follows. The Port McKenzie Multimodal Corridor project would be constructed through an alignment previously designed exclusively for the Port McKenzie Rail Extension Project. This project would support completing the current rail extension project, in which the state of Alaska has invested $184 million. The corridor underwent a preliminary environmental and an alternatives report in 2008 and an environmental impact study in 2011 in partnership with Alaska Railroad Corporation to prepare for environmental clearance, to prepare for the railway installation. While it may need further permitting and legislative approval, since the environmental clearance was for a railroad, the corridor has been cleared of vegetation and prepared with a gravel aggregate embankment and 6 single-lane railroad bridges. Due to several unfulfilled funding requests to construct the rail and a growing housing and economic demand, the Mat-Su Borough is proposing to allow for corridor use as an 18.5-mile 2-lane arterial road next to the rail. This could be used as a utility corridor and would help with the Mat-Su Borough goal of connecting goods and services within the fast-growing region. It would provide a boost to the economy and advance transportation options to living wage jobs and housing should the bridge to Anchorage ever be considered. The Port McKenzie multimodal utility corridor would turn this dormant corridor into an essential asset for the Mat-Su. The current estimated cost to construct the road is $72 million. And if I may speak to it,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I would love to see the rail. We all would. Do we think the railroad's going to get it done? We don't know, right? So what this is doing in it really, all this is doing is saying that we're open for business and we'll take the first person in town that wants to help invest. If it winds up partial one way, partial the other way, fully one way, fully the other way, it doesn't matter. Having the road, or at least having able to be part of it be used as a road, would open up a lot of lands. I heard a couple days ago we're expected to grow by 17 to 18,000 more people in the next 48 months, right? I mean, we've heard some pretty big numbers lately. Alaska is growing. The economy is booming again. And they're all coming here, just like the last census period and the one before that. So, yeah, that's the gist of this, is it would open it up to the first person in town that wants to get to work. And I think that's how the free market should work.
Further discussion on amendment number 5. Yes, Assembly President.
So are they using the railroad bed as the road, or are they building the road next to the railroad bed?
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Bernier, I think it depends, because you're looking at two different funding sources for a road and a rail. So I think what we're going to be doing is pursuing both simultaneously. The borough's already submitted a USDOT rural grant application. We did talk to the railroad yesterday about potential Federal Railroad Administration grant opportunities. And when we talked to the House Transportation Committee yesterday, we did have that conversation about funding strategies and the fact that if we were to get a Federal Railroad Administration grant, we would still need a non-federal match, and that we would expect that to come from the state. So I think we would be pursuing both simultaneously and see what the best way to potentially pull these together as that goes. If there's not support for funding the rail, then I think we look at a road, or vice versa. But I do see the value of having a multi-use corridor designated. I mean, even just for the fact that you could put utilities in that corridor could be helpful. And so that's essentially what this speaks to.
Further questions on amendment number 5? Okay, is there any objections to amendment number 5?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I do have a question for the manager.
Sure.
So if we were able to secure funding for a road and we didn't have the money for the rail, would this, I'm not exactly sure on the wording of this resolution, that leaves the door open to that, if I understand the Assemblyman Young correctly, but I wanted to hear from the manager, is his understanding we could pursue moving forward with the road if the money for the rail is not there?
Go ahead, sir.
Sure. Through the mayor to Ms. Nowers, great question. You asked the hard question, unfortunately. That would lead us to a decision point. We're not there yet. I think regardless if we were to get a federal railroad grant or USDOT rural grant, both require a non-federal match that I don't think the Mat-Su Borough is prepared to and or willing to fund. So either way, it would require state legislative support in some way, shape, or form. So at this point, I think it'll depend. I think what this has done is it's restarted the conversation about PMRE and not allowed it to be on the back burner as a project that's just languishing. And so we'll see how both of those pursue. I think what it's done is, frankly, it's lit a fire under some folks to figure out how to get the railroad moving forward. And what I saw in the House Transportation Committee meeting yesterday was some pretty mobilized folks. So we'll see where that goes. But we may come to that point where we have to make that, we, meaning the Assembly, not me, and potentially the state legislature, to have that conversation about how do we fund this? Because I think it's going to continue to be a partnership regardless, because the borough doesn't have the capacity to step in, even for the road grant, if we were awarded that, to take on that non-federal match. I think it would be in the $14 million neighborhood, just to kind of give you some context for how much we're talking about.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful. I'm okay with this amendment. I would just say that I don't want to wait that much longer for rail money to materialize and not materialize and have a perfectly usable roadbed that we just pay money to maintain and kick people off of. So I'm okay with if people are fired up and they think they can make things happen with the rail. I just don't want another 5 years to go by. We need to, in my opinion, we need to have a usable, productive asset for the borough that is not just a money drain. So just for on the record, but I will support this amendment, and hopefully, fires will continue to be sparked.
Further discussion on amendment
Madam
number?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the manager. So let's say we build a road out there, and then we wanna swap it over. We get some money somehow to finish the railroad, and we want to swap it over. How does that process? I mean, would we even be able to do that at that point? We've got this road that's there. We got people that are used to using it, and now we want to change it back up and put the rail through. How does that look? What does that look like?
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Hale. Great question. Yeah, that's part of what would lead it. If we got to that decision point, that's got to be part of the conversation. What I can tell you is the existing right-of-way is, I don't believe the existing right-of-way is adequate to provide both a rail and a road at this time. So I think there would be additional right-of-way that would be required to be acquired to make both exist within that corridor. And that's really where you look at what is that interest in completing the rail versus a road versus trying to go for both. And I think if we get to that point where there's, actual federal money being offered, we're going to have that tough conversation. But the current right of way, roughly about 200 feet, would not be adequate to support both at this time. But it's like anything. We didn't have any right of way there before this project started. So certainly there is potential for acquiring the additional right of way to make that serve both purposes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, my main concern here is exactly that. If we build a road, then, we've got this road. People are used to driving up and down it. They don't want to give it up for a railroad when we really, really desperately need a railroad to the port to make it viable. I mean, without a railroad, without a tie-in to get to Fairbanks, to get up north, to get to Prudhoe Bay, the port is never gonna produce. And so that's my big concern. I am going to support this amendment in the hopes that it does, as you say, light a fire under some people to actually see the rail get completed. So thank you.
Further discussion on amendment number 5? Is there any objection to amendment number 5? Okay, hearing none, then amendment number 5 is passed. Let's see. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to offer up amendment number 6. This is co-sponsored by Assemblymember Nowers and I. Stephanie, would you like to read this into the record, or do you want me to, since I'm here and not on the phone?
That would be great if you would. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I move to amend Resolution 23-104 to include the following under borough funding priorities and insert it as priority number 4. Mat-Su City Water Interconnect. The City of Palmer, the City of Wasilla, and the Matanuska Borough request $2 million to support the design and permitting of interconnecting the 2 city water systems in the core area of the Mat-Su Valley. This request would match local funds providing funding to design and permit and interconnect for future potential grant funding. The City of Wasilla and Palmer water systems play a crucial role in ensuring our community's health, safety, and well-being. However, each system operates independently, which presents challenges in terms of efficiency, resilience, and long-term sustainability. By connecting these 2 water systems, we can realize several significant benefits, including improved resilience, In times of natural disasters or emergencies, having a redundant and interconnected water system ensures that our residents and businesses will provide a reliable source of clean water. 2, enhanced water quality. Combining the resources, and expertise of both systems will lead to improved water systems. Efficiency and cost savings. By sharing resources, we can optimize water distribution, reduce operational costs, and provide access to water, enabling higher density development. Environmental sustainability. The connected systems can better manage water resources, leading to more responsible water usage and improved environmental conservation efforts. Supporting growth and development. A well-connected and reliable water system is essential for attracting new businesses and residents and fostering economic growth and development. The proposed $2 million in state funding would be used to support the critical early phases of this project, including the detailed design, permitting process, and initial infrastructure improvements needed to connect these two water systems. This investment will lay the foundation for a sustainable, resilient, and efficient water infrastructure that will serve our community for generations.
Okay. Discussion on amendment number 6. Any objection? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Assemblyperson 2.
Did we not just give the city of Wasilla and city of Palmer millions of dollars to do this project already?
No, what we did was we funded a, I guess the best way to explain it is like a pump station for each city so that they can increase their head pressure, right? Pressurize their systems better. That's what that money went to. This is asking the state, and we do have some money set aside. I believe the manager could explain better, but we're asking the state to help us pay for the study, the cost of the engineering, those type of things. So eventually, those water systems have to be tied together, and this is just asking the state to help us with that. But and Mike, if you want to add anything in, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so through the mayor to Mr. Tu, that's correct. We did a part of that project that Mr. Young just spoke to for the 2 city booster stations, one for Palmer, one for Wasilla, did include $1.9 million, just a little over $1.9 million for a city interconnect. So the $2 million local match this refers to is that. So what we're saying is, hey, state, will you match that $2 million? Because the total design and permitting fees is estimated to be $4 million. So this would allow us to advance that quickly and get to a full design, because that would help us out for future grant applications to have a fully designed and permitted project, and would put us in an advantage to qualify for future grants. I mean, you're talking probably $30+ million to actually construct. So what we want to do is posture this for future grants. And we're like, hey, we put $2 million in. Let's see if the state will meet us halfway.
Further, go ahead, sir.
Just help me out a little more, Mike. So we have Palmer, and we'll go down by the hospital, and then we come back up to Wasilla. And what we're talking about is we're going to put in a pipe, right? And the pipe's already to the hospital, basically, right? From Palmer. And now what we were going to actually do is extend a pipe and a pump from the city, from the hospital up to Wasilla. Is that not what we started out with?
Yeah. So through the mayor to Mr. Tu, that's correct. If there's 2 options that I'm aware of based on the city's design firm, that one option is to meet the 2 systems meet at Higher Road. That would be the closest spot, as you just mentioned, coming from the hospital and then from where the city water system moves east. But there's a second alternative, although it's more expensive to construct, might be more beneficial from an economic development perspective, and that's to go down the Bogard corridor and connect to Spruce over on the city of Wasilla. Because then what you do is create the opportunity to put higher density development through that corridor by having a city water system. So both of those need to be evaluated to figure out what's the best alternative. And if you get the cost benefit of having that more expensive to construct alternative that takes you along the Bogard corridor. So that needs to be part of that process. Both of those need to be further vetted, but that process overall, that full design and permitting, we believe, based on what the city's provided from talking to their engineer, and by the way, they use the same firm, so that's helpful, is approximately $4 million. But you're right, and that's what we want to look at, because we want to look at how could this help the borough, right, from an economic development perspective to provide access to higher density development or commercial businesses that need access to city water. Now, of course, there's a farther conversation about wastewater, but that's for a different day.
Okay, thank you then.
Further discussion on amendment number 6? Any objection to amendment number 6? Okay, amendment number 6 has passed. Then do you have another one, sir?
I have one I'm considering offering, but I'd like to visit with the manager about it for a few minutes. And we've all been here because we started earlier quite a while. So if we could please take a short intermission
Sure.
for everyone to use the restroom and then Mike and I to visit, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a break until like what, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 7:50. please.
Sorry, my lotion's very smelly, you guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's too much for me.
As long as it does the job. Okay, we are still under the portion of amendments for Resolution 23-104. Is there further amendments?
Assembly member, yes.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
This will be amendment number 7. The title will be Support to DOT on Road Maintenance. And the gist of it is, and Mike and the clerk can write it up however they'd like, but I would like to ask the DOT to please consider using our road service area contractors to hit our big roads that are state roads. Vine Road's an example, Big Lake Road. These things go a long time, and I'm not knocking the state. I know they're spread thin and their shops are in different parts of the community, Palmer and I believe Willow, but what I'd like to see, and it's been done in the past, and I think we should go back to it, is where the state uses private sector RSA contractors to do those roads so that they can be maintained much faster, efficiently. It'll lead to much safer roads in our community. Right now, RSA contractors have to lift their blades to drive down a state road. They're driving down it as it is, and they don't plow it. And I don't blame them. They're not getting paid to plow it. They're not getting paid to tear up their cutting edges. And I would just like to see the state, I think after the snow we've had the last few years and the record-breaking November we just had, I think it would be nice for Borough residents if we could just go with whichever service is going to be the fastest and most responsive. And at this point, it'd be private sector. So that's the gist of it. Mike, if you want to add anything in.
Okay, is there discussion on amendment number 7? Yes, Assemblyperson 2.
Okay, so I would support something going along that lines. That has been done in the past here in the valley. The state of Alaska paid Copperwood to do Vine, a portion of Vine, right next to Knik, from I think it was Hollywood to Knik. And then just recently, as we've seen in the news, Mayor Bronson went ahead and took care of the state. So, but the state, I guess they're going to pay him with a different check or something. So I do support that. That's a great idea. That would definitely help the safety and the traveling people in our community for sure.
Okay, further discussion on amendment number 7. Any of
Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and support this. I just want to make sure whatever deal we strike, and I'm sure that Assemblymember Yunt and the manager would look out for this, that whatever deal we strike doesn't result in delays in the neighborhoods getting plowed. So if we set up to help the state with those roads, that we are still able to complete the neighbors, those subdivisions, cul-de-sacs in time. But I know we'll look out for that. We'll make a good deal. So I think this, is a good thing to be talking to DOT about. So thanks to Assemblymember Yunt for proposing it.
Okay. Further discussion on amendment number 7. Is there any objection to amendment number 7? Okay, if not, then it passes. Further amendments. Assemblyperson Nowers.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I have one small one. This would be to amend, and I apologize, Lonnie, for not giving this to you ahead of time, but this is item K, support for Alaska liquefied natural gas on page 4. And I would like to amend the last sentence to strike the words natural gas and insert power. So it would read, Alaskans need a long-term and affordable source of power for home heating, power generation, and industrial needs. And I just think that there's other ways that people can heat their homes and do power generation, primarily, and industrial needs, and that's electricity. So I'm for supporting the liquefied natural gas project, but I just think to not box ourselves into a corner and make sure we're keeping all options on the table, that we use the word power there instead of natural gas, because there are potentially other options. And that's, as far as what Alaskans need, they need a source of power that is affordable and long-term, whichever form that comes in.
Okay, discussion on amendment number 8.
This is a great amendment. I fully support it.
Okay. Any other comments on amendment number 8? Any objections to amendment number 8? Hearing no objections, then amendment number 8 passes. Any further amendments on resolution 104? Assemblyperson 2.
I'd like to make an amendment to put in like $10 million from the state for non-borough certified roads to bring them up to a standard that the maintenance could be done on.
Okay. So amendment number 9.
Yeah, what I would like to expand a little bit on that and to tell
Sure.
you that
Go ahead.
we have about, give or take, about 300 miles here in the borough of roads that people live on, pay taxes on, and they have no maintenance. So we need to, when I started with the borough 20 years ago, we had about 1,100 miles of road that we took care of. Now it's been over 20 years and we have about 1,200 miles. But we still have all these, and that mileage, it's not new roads really. What it is new subdivisions. And it's the private sector putting in subdivisions, and that's how we added up the miles. But we're not taking care of the folks out there that have roads that they're not getting maintenance on. They're not getting, it's terrible. So I'd like to see if we could get some money to help those out. Non-borough certified road upgrades.
Okay. Did you get that? Okay. Okay. Discussion on amendment number 9. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I fully support this. I'm actually in my plow truck right now. I drove that to the meeting today because I plowed one of those roads today in my district for 5 homes that live down there. It's a road that the city's plowed for, give or take, 15 years, the city of Wasilla, because it's close to it. It touches it, but it's in the borough. It's a non-certified road. They're still paying 100% of their RSA tax, but they don't get the service. And I understand that it's a big puzzle that we need to solve, right? I will be working. I've asked Manager Brown and his team to put together a list. George Hayes will be coming forward with some stuff in the future that will help us all make better decisions as assembly members in our districts and in specific RSAs. But yeah, I mean, I plowed one of those roads today because all 5 of the people that live down there are, way old enough. They're all older than my mom, and they don't have plow rigs. And as of today, only because of the wind, but there's no way you could have got an ambulance down there today. And so that's the basis of it. And I thank you for bringing that to light, Moki. There are a lot of roads in our community that people pay for the service, but they don't get it all, right? And when it comes time to get an ambulance or a fire truck down there, we could have a real problem on our hands one of these days if we can't. So I would love to see this as a state legislative priority. I think it is quite possibly the biggest hole in our game as far as providing services to our community. So fire trucks, ambulances, and those are important things to be able to get to people's houses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So thank you for bringing this amendment. I fully support it.
Assemblymember 2,
Madam Mayor.
if I could clarify,
Okay.
is your intent to have administration write the narrative for that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
And then
Mike.
if I may, through the mayor, what I will do, it likely is use some of the narrative that's in item 3 on the federal legislative priorities for substandard roads and bridges. I'll probably remove the bridge component. But so if you're looking for what kind of verbiage we'll use, refer to we'll talk about in a minute, Resolution 23-105. The other question I would have is, and if you'll recall, I think it was Representative Sumner mentioned this when we talked, is from a funding priorities perspective, it's helpful to the legislators if they know what order the assembly kind of wants them in. So I appreciate adding it. My question would be, under borough funding priorities, is it priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? If it were up to me, I would suggest priority number 4, perhaps, or because we already, right now, number 1 is full funding for school bond debt reimbursement. Number 2 is the 50% match for the voter-approved transportation projects, which I think, because I'm looking out here and making sure we hit it in the order you want. Number 3 is the PMRE Point McKenzie Highway, that multi-use corridor. Number 4, we just added the $2 million for the city water interconnect. So does it go above education, below education? Does it go above any of those priorities I just mentioned? I think that's important because as a body, you determine that. My job is just to execute what you want.
I know that City of Wasilla may not want to hear me say this because it's I'm the representative for our community, but to me, this is way more important than the water interconnect. Like I said, we, as stated by Mr. Two, we have hundreds of miles of roads, or whatever it may be. It's quite a bit. Most of them are not in my district, right? Most of them are in Ron's district or Tim's or Moki's, right? But we have a lot of roads where we can't even get an ambulance or a fire truck down on part of the year. And that to me is the biggest hole in our game as a community. So I would definitely put this above the water thing. I don't necessarily think it needs to go above school bond debt reimbursement or the other items you mentioned. But yeah, number 4 seems like a good fit to me, sliding in at priority number 4. So if anyone else has something.
Further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson 2, go ahead.
I want to start out by saying thank you, Rob. And thank you for acknowledging that it does mean a lot. And 300 miles of these roads, that's a lot of people out there. So I'd say thank you, and I'll go for that too.
Okay. Further discussion on amendment number 9. Is there
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
It's always hard to add something on the fly. So, but I get the gist of this one. I just do have the same concerns as the manager. Where in our priorities do we put this? Because we're asking the state for a lot of funding and support for DOT funding in the area. And I lived on one of those impassable roads when I moved out here. So I'm familiar with what that's like and maintaining it yourself and jumping up and down on it in the springtime and be like a nice waterbed, with the solid foundation underneath that it had. But I'm also just aware that, we have roads like Bogard is the classic one. We have just a lot of roads that people are getting literally hurt and worse on. I just had another friend have a accident on Bogard that totaled her truck and sent the other people to the hospital. So I guess I don't have an objection to adding this, but I just think as an assembly, we may need to sort through all these things. When the state totals up all the funding, whether it's DOT or direct to the borough and says, which come first. You don't want to pit one area against the other, but I guess I will support this. I just, speaking this all out loud, I don't want to see us neglect some of the real safety issues in the core area of the borough and sometimes outside the core area with these dangerous roads and intersections that have been created, to make an impassable road passable. Anyways, that's my biggest heartburn with this is just how we approach the state and make sure we've decided what our priorities are and in what order. If they tell us they've got 70 million in funding and that's it, 70 million would be great, but maybe they tell us, less, but
Okay.
that's
Mike.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mike,
so
go ahead.
through the mayor to the assembly. So if when you look at the resolution for the state priorities, we took a strategy or an approach where the state roads like the Bogards and some of the other roads that are largely federal funding that the state executes, That's under borough action priorities because it's money that the state manages. It doesn't come to us. The borough funding priorities is largely funding that would come to the Mat-Su Borough for execution. So I don't see those priorities competing. We still have the Fairview Loop roads, the Bogard, Engstrom, KGB, Seward Meridian. All of those roads are still listed under borough action priorities on the front page. So I don't see those necessarily competing. The funding priorities are more focused to where do we focus our effort when we go to Juneau and lobby the legislators, what money in what priority order does the assembly want to see us go after? Because we often get asked that question, what's more important? And I would rather have that clearly specified by this body instead of me left kind of speculating. So the top four as it's listed now, number one is school bond debt reimbursement. Number two is the 50% match for voter approved transportation, right? Which just passed here a couple of weeks ago. You certified tonight. Number three is the Point McKenzie multi-use corridor that we discussed earlier. And then I believe we inserted number four as the city water interconnect, and then it goes into education. Which we support the district's priorities around education funding. So the question is kind of where do you want it to fall on that scale? What I'm hearing is potentially to put it above the city water sewer interconnect, which would put it at number four, move city water down to number five.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, comment?
The clerk will have to clarify. I'm not sure if this is a secondary amendment, but if it is, I'd like to move a secondary amendment that we rank this as number four, this amendment number four
Go ahead.
in our priority list.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. So we will.
And I
take
would
it- Go ahead.
I would oppose, I would put it as number 5 after the city water connect, the 2 million for city water. I want to see that go by the wayside.
Okay. So we have a secondary amendment to make this amendment number 9, number 4, but we have an objection. So further discussion. Because amendment number 9 is priority number 4 on the state legislative priorities. We have an assembly person that has objected and wants it to be number 5, but we need to take the vote on number 9 being number 4 before we can take up whether it should be number 5. Pardon? Yeah, so then if you are in favor of amendment number 9 being number 4, then you would vote yes at this time. And we
Well, I
will
think
vote.
They've already voted, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Oh, they're way ahead of me. I'm just rambling on and they've done it. Okay, sorry.
Assembly Member Nowers.
I'm laughing too hard. I would vote no on this.
Assembly Member Hale.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, it passed with Assembly Member Nowers opposed.
Okay, alrighty. So now amendment number 9 is back for the original amount of the 10 million for the substandard roads, making it, and you've already approved it to be number 4. So is there further discussion on the main amendment? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to clarify with the sponsor of the amendment. This is not, you're not asking for a match. You're asking for the 10 million across the board. Perfect. That's how I'd hoped it was. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you, sir.
For non-borough certified roads.
But no match required.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion? Yes, sir.
Quick question to our sponsor. 10 million approximately out of that 300 miles. What does that get us? 50 miles, 100? If we had to just guesstimate, do you think?
I really can't guess because I would tell you that a paved road costs $1.5 million. So that's for 1 mile. So what we're talking about is uncertified roads and getting them to a quality of certification that we can do a plow, maintain of the roads. So I can't really tell you, but I can tell you that it would definitely move forward. And then you guys can continue on as the years go by. And then hopefully 40 years from now, we don't have 300 miles of Borough certified roads. You know, they'll actually be all certified.
Yeah,
Be a great place to live.
Think I'd be fair with that. I'm ready to vote.
Any further discussion? Any?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to thank Assembly Member 2 for making this amendment. There's a lot of roads like this in my district as well as his. So I just want to thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any objection to amendment number 9 passing? Hearing no objection, then amendment number 9 has passed. Further amendments to resolution 23-104. Yes, Assemblyperson Bernier, go ahead. What do you put your mic on? Yeah, go ahead.
This summer, I attended a trooper meeting up there at the Trapper Creek Community Council. And, you know, they really want troopers up there. And the troopers were up there, the commissioner was up there, and they said, you know, point blank, it ain't going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. They've got 60, 70 positions that are already paid for that they cannot find candidates. They're going out of state to get candidates.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's taken several hours to get a trooper up there if they ever even show up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to see is some type of, what I told the troopers and the community council. Troopers, they should be looking at churches and stuff like that, trying to get local people into the troopers. And then the Trapper Creeks, hey, you know, we used to have militias back in the old days. And I fully support a militia. Well, maybe not that drastic, but what if we did gun safety, just like when you go get a concealed gun permit, funding for these type of programs for training up the citizens in those areas to properly handle and diffuse situations to where it doesn't go.
Sounds.
Yeah. But I'd like to see something like that going on. And it doesn't just have to be District 7. It can be, you know, out in the Butte or wherever they have a difficult time getting the troopers at, you know.
Mm-hmm. The bush.
But further out is more what I'm trying to
Okay.
go for.
So you'd be, I guess, encouraging the legislature to set up a program that would assist private citizens, right?
To bring the community together and work together as far as training and.
Okay. All righty. So that is amendment number 10. Assemblyperson 2, did you have a question, comment?
Yeah, are you talking about and I'm just trying to listen. So are you talking about like in the villages, we have these they're not really troopers, but maybe they are
Safety
troopers.
officers.
Yeah, like that. Are you trying to ask the state that maybe we should have some of these folks out here in the borough?
You know, that might not be a bad idea, but I think everybody should be on an even playing ground. And I think you would have a lot less victims if everybody knew how to handle a gun and actually trained together and came together as a community. The people, they were talking about druggies and stuff running around there, stealing stuff and just all kinds of stuff. And I really think that's why they're calling the troopers and stuff. And this would help if the troopers can't get out there.
Okay.
And I think that the crime and stuff would actually go down.
Okay, Assemblyperson Bernier, I think the clerk has some proposed wordage.
Okay.
Is that okay? Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh boy, now I got to read my handwriting. Encouraging the legislature to create a program to train private citizens in firearm safety and de-escalation techniques.
Okay. Has everybody heard that okay? Everybody understands what amendment number 10 is? Deputy Mayor.
Could you read that one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Encouraging the legislature to create a program to train private citizens in firearm safety and de-escalation techniques.
Deputy
Does
Mayor.
that have to be in a specific area or, because that's really broad?
Matsu Borough. No.
Just a matter, well, yeah, it's pretty broad too.
Yeah, I don't know. Ask them, do
think
you want it
next-
statewide or borough or
You
doesn't?
can start
no.
in the borough, but I mean,
Okay.
it catches on, right?
Okay. So, but in your amendment, you do not restrict it to a geographical location.
I would yes, give priority to like Trapper Creek, Telkena.
You want to
North
list
Willow,
them
specific.
specifically?
Oh, I've got something.
Okay. Clerk's got some. Let's hear.
In areas
that
do not,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm writing as I talk, that do not have police services.
Or full police services, full complement of officers.
Or do you want AST services?
I am asking for funding for gun training in areas of the borough that the troopers cannot get to in a reasonable amount of time. The training would be safety related and how to properly handle handguns similar to a concealed carry and yeah. You can, but I mean, that was just off the top of my head.
Is that anything like when we were at Chickaloon, how there's a lot of controversy about that? About, people would, if the officers couldn't get there were people in Chickaloon who were trained, and is it kind of like that?
Heck, yeah.
It sounds like it. I don't know that.
That would be the militia, right?
Kind
But
of like.
If everybody's trained up, nobody's going to mess with them, right? Or shouldn't.
Maybe before we do that, we should check out how the Chickaloon program works, because that is the whole intent, is that if the troopers can't get there, somebody in authority with the ability, competence, blah, 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 can do it. Maybe we should check that first and put it on the next.
You have to be careful. Chickaloon is a tribe.
Yeah.
So they're
I've worked out in a
federal.
lot of villages and safety officers. There's the good old boy system, politics, and all kinds of stuff. I think everybody just should have a fair shot of being able to get trained up.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to offer a friendly second amendment, or a second amendment. Hey, secondary. We're headed in that direction. Secondary amendment, as long as I have the blessing of the sponsor when I'm done speaking it. So I think we need to put a fiscal note to this, in all fairness to the legislature and for our manager, so that we know what we're asking for. So don't quote me on this as being exact today, but I believe last time I heard or checked, it's about $210. When you go to get your concealed weapons permit, concealed carry, you need to get fingerprints and a photo, right? It's a couple $100. You can take classes where you wrap all of it in together for about $500 a piece. So if we asked for $50,000, then with a $500 credit towards each person, and again, it would be similar. I would say this program would be managed by the borough manager or staff, whoever requested it. I mean, but that would I'm just saying, who gets the $500? Is it first come, first serve? Is it so many per assembly district? I don't really care, right? But ask for an amount of money. So I'll just offer it. I'm going to offer and ask of $50,000 with a maximum of $500 per applicant until the money's gone, to pay for training and their application fee, which includes their photo and their fingerprints, of $210. So it would be $500 a person would pay for them to go through a concealed weapons class, probably. And if it's a little bit more than that, they could fork up the rest. But that's my secondary amendment. We need to put an ask to it, a fiscal note. So $50,000.
I would like to.
So, okay, so It's, because we're asking the legislature to do this,
Mhm.
and in the amount of $50,000, that's the secondary amendment, right?
Yeah, and all I ask is if we do get any money, that the borough not give one person more than $500 towards their training and their, but I guess that's not part of the legislative priority.
Yeah,
So
because
yeah.
what if it ends up being $525, you know, I mean.
then they bring
Some of the
25
things
bucks.
when you ask the legislature to do it, you
Yeah.
don't.
We're just
you
asking
wanna-
the legislature for $50,000 towards training and
Yeah.
so,
Right.
yeah, and I'll start it at that. If anybody would like to offer, make it more or make it less, then
Maybe just put it in a specific area, because you say 50,000 for the whole borough, the whole state, what?
we
I-
probably ought to give the attorney a moment. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
To your secondary amendment, Assemblymember Yunt, the borough doesn't have the power to provide training for self-defense classes. We don't have law enforcement powers. We don't have public safety powers. And the primary amendment was to ask the state to set up a program to train people. Now, you want to attach a fiscal note, that's fine. I just want to caution the assembly against making an ask for money that you can't legally spend.
So I have a question then, and maybe that is the full answer, but I understand we don't have police powers, but are we not able to just create a grant program where we just pay for people to go get that training from private sector? Could we use our own money and just pay for 100 students or 100 kids or 100 adults to get that type of training? And when I say students, I mean like they'd be a student in the class, but they're an adult, not a child.
Right. I don't think that's the same thing as what Assemblymember Bernier was talking about. He was talking about the state basically training people for de-escalation and use of firearms, kind of like a VPSO program, but not quite, but a de-escalation, talked about the community coming together. I think that's different than what you're saying, hey, state, give us a grant and we're gonna go do this. Regardless of where the money comes from, and this was part of the problem with when we got all these COVID funds, the federal government said you could spend COVID funds on law enforcement. Well, that doesn't mean we could because we don't have law enforcement powers, right? So just because the grantor tells you can spend money on something, we need the power to spend those funds. And I would just be careful about asking for money for this particular program because it doesn't fall into.
So could I
Obvious
adjust
powers.
my friendly secondary amendment to make it up to $500 per person, up to $50,000, where the training has to be received by private sector, and the government won't be doing the training, but it's going to be private sector providing the training. So they're going to have to go to, but there's a lot of people that do it, but the government won't do the training.
I guess my question for you is, are you saying that you want the borough to receive this money, or are you just asking the state to set up a program?
No, I don't want the state to do it. I want them to give us the money, and then we
don't. Then why not just have the state give us $400,000 and hire a private company to provide police services?
Well, so
because we can't, you can't spend money on things don't have the power to do, no matter where it comes from.
understand, but we have in the Matsu School District, we've had in the past, and we do still have school-sponsored shooting programs.
That's correct.
So that's to me, this is just an extension of that.
I would not I would respectfully disagree.
Okay. I mean, because taxpayer funds do pay for that in our community.
Well, we have area-wide parks and recreation power as well, so.
Could we do this?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm just an idea guy. I'm trying to be the problem solver here. So if there's any ideas on how we can administer this program, I'm all for it. So
Yeah, I don't understand
Madam
why you want to, let's go. Just a minute, Assembly Person Hours, I think Mike wanted to say something.
Yeah. So through the mayor to the assembly, that's what I was thinking too. Is this a borough action priority that goes under a legislative program that could be a part of public safety? Or are you suggesting that this be a funding priority, funding that comes to the borough, and then we set up a program? I mean, I'll do whatever I'm told. I'm just looking at it and going, we don't really have staff to carry out this type of program right now. I'm sure we could problem solve if needed, but I'm just saying we're not really set up with that in mind. I was thinking it was more of a borough action priority.
my vision for the secondary amendment would be just like we just did the car removal program that Mr. Fawnoff set up. We don't have, the staff didn't necessarily go out there and remove the cars. They just certified that it was done. Oh, you brought us your concealed weapons permit dated after the date of this. Here's your $500 reimbursement for the, I wouldn't want to prepay for it. We didn't prepay for moving the cars, right? Once they had moved the car, then we reimbursed them up to X amount. So I'm open to the idea. I'm open to any ideas that make it legal. And my starting offer is $50,000 ask. That's where I'm at. So if anybody has ideas on how to make this legal, now's the time to have them.
Okay, Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
Thank you. I understand the intent of the sponsor to want to make the rural areas safer, where you trooper response takes a really long time and you don't have a trooper post there anymore. And I understand the intent to try to have some people up there who could respond, or at least know how to respond. I just feel like we're trying to workshop an idea on the fly, and I just respectfully suggest maybe that we could table this. And Mr. Bernier, you might, work it with the manager a little bit and with the troopers, and come back and add it to our list. Like this list can be added to at a future meeting. So it just feels like we're trying to throw stuff against the wall right now, and there's probably a good idea in there. It just might take more time than we have at this meeting tonight.
Okay. Do you have a response, sir? Go ahead.
What is the time limit as far as getting our priorities to them? And
Well, we're going to have the meeting on December 19th, and we need to prepare the pamphlet, and the only meeting we have is December 14th, which is with the
Just the
school
school board.
district. And so we don't have another meeting, as far as being able to get it into that booklet.
so if I put my thinking cap on, and next few days, week or so, come back and we do a resolution.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Okay.
do it that way.
All right. So I'm sorry.
I was just going to say through the mayor, yes. I mean, we can add it. So if we do a resolution and find out it's all good to go and we got a good solution that we're content with, we could pass that in December and just add it, provide it to the delegation as they get ready to intercession in January. It just won't be in the booklet the mayor talked about as we prepare for the meeting, but we've done it before. We can add resolutions that the assembly moves or motions that you make at a later time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I'm going to go ahead.
Madam Mayor.
The clerk had a point. Do you mind if I recognize her first, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it sounds like Assemblymember Bernier would like to withdraw his amendment, but Assemblymember Yunt would need to withdraw his secondary first.
Okay.
I suppose I will withdraw my secondary amendment.
Okay. All right.
Is there any objection?
Is there any objection? Okay. Assemblyperson Bernier,
I'd like to withdraw my number 10, was it?
and 11.
Number 11 amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any objection?
Any objection? Okay. Now, Assemblyperson Hale, I'll recognize you. Maybe mute at this time,
Yeah,
sir. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I just want to say to Assemblymember Bernier that I think he's got the beginnings of a really good idea there, and I look forward to seeing what he comes up with. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other amendments to Resolution 23-104? Yes, Assemblyperson.
I almost want to ask maybe attorney. There's when we had meeting for the junk removal program, and I talked to the sergeant that was here for the troopers, and he echoed the same thing, that they're having difficult times filling in the positions that already are out there, and they just need to find people, so to speak. On the flip side, I think Wasilla Police Department has every single vacancy filled in, or very close to it at least. They're not having that same problem. And I asked them, why is that the case, and he says, well, the troopers have certain requirements that require you to go to some remote village where they don't understand the culture or anything like that, and they need to act like a new freshman trooper over there, and try to clean up house, so to speak. And not many people willing to leave their families and go and do that kind of stuff. So almost like if we put in a resolution to make the requirements for the troopers to not have that specific requirement, I think that we'd have more people sign up, because if they're trying to recruit people from another state and things like who already probably have a good experience and things like that, they don't want to go to some village that they can't find on a map, right? So I almost think if we encourage the state to remove that remote distance or whatever, we can look into the actual aspect what requires that. That one is, they said, one of the toughest things. It's not the pay, it's not the benefit, but it's the community has support behind the trooper in general, but it's the requirement of going somewhere and working where it's not really, let's just say, desirable, so to speak. So that's what I would almost want to see a proposal. We could put that together as an encouragement, because it's just a resolution. Doesn't mean that we're going to get it, but we're almost asking. But I could see that be a benefit to filling those positions that are already created, that already have the money for it. And then hopefully that will fill that, and that will help the need that Mr. Bernier brought and help to offset that problem, is what I'm saying. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I sort of recoil, I guess, at trying to tell the Department of Public Safety in Alaska and the governor, how to handle their hiring, So, but Deputy Mayor, I think, had a comment.
I like the concept, but here's my concern. City police departments are hiring people that are going to work within those boundaries, which means if you're going to work within those boundaries, you're probably going to live pretty close. The Alaska State Troopers are hiring for the entire state, which is, what, three times or something larger than the state of Texas. We've had vacancy issues in the Alaska State Troopers my entire life that I don't ever remember a time we don't, because tasking somebody with working rurally that's a pretty big task. Now I do know I got friends that are troopers that are working rurally week on, week off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which I think is starting to help them fill those positions now. And we do have, these are easy numbers to pull up, but we have the highest paid state troopers in the United States of America are the Alaska State Troopers. And I think it comes back to some of those. So I don't know that there's anything that we could say to the state that would actually help them fill their vacancies. I don't ever remember a time when we didn't have vacancy issues, so for troopers. Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to go to bed at night with their husband or their wife and their children. And so it is easier to hire for positions inside city limits, but that's not the purpose of the Alaska State Troopers. Their purpose is everything outside of cities. So I would be very reluctant to send that message. That's all I'm saying. So, but.
And
Madam Mayor?
Yeah. Can I just say something a minute? I think it's only been probably within the last less than 6 months that the city of Palmer and the city of Wasilla have been full staffed. Because a year ago at this time, they were all down. So that's made a difference. The other thing you could think about is directing the manager to meet with the commissioner of public safety and ask him how we could help him staff more people in our borough. And so that might be Assemblyperson Hale. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there an amendment on the floor right now?
No, there is not.
I would like to call the question on the main motion, please.
Okay. Righty. The question has been called on the main motion. Is there objection to the question being called? Okay, hearing no objection, then the question's called. And Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Is there any objection to the main motion?
Any objection to the main motion? Okay. So the main motion then passes as amended. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 23-105, a resolution approving federal legislative priorities for 2024. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Are you doing the staff report or does we need one? Okay, we're just going to go ahead and open the public hearing. On Resolution 23-105. This is the priorities for the federal priorities for 2024. Do we have a sign-up sheet? We do not. Anyone here that would like to testify on any of the priorities that are listed in the Resolution 23-105? Do we have anybody? We do have one person online. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Margaret Stern again, and I'm commenting once again on behalf of the Susitna River Coalition. We are in support of item 7, fish passage. Adequate fish passage supports healthy fisheries in the Mat-Su Borough, and so it's great to see more funding going towards this. In addition, I would like to address and answer some of the questions from the last discussion regarding West Susitna access that some of you had about the project. In reference to the DOT portion of the road, the DOT drafted plan wrapped its public comment period in September. It drafted the allocation of the first 15 miles of West Susitna access and a mega bridge across the Sioux for a price tag at $82.5 million. 80% of online comments were against this project. The poll assembly person yet referenced
Ma'am, if I could interrupt you, we are on federal legislative priorities, and I do not believe that that priority is on our federal legislative priorities. It was on our state priorities. If you want to address.
Right. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So we are in support of fish passage. And again, I have answers to all of the questions that were asked about the last item and West Susitna access, and would be happy to speak to you individually or as a group to provide more information about a project that would have massive impacts on the borough and our residents. Please email me anytime. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Anyone here want to testify on Resolution 23-105? This is federal legislation. If not, I'll close the public hearing, and believe we do have a couple of amendments, right?
One.
Yeah, Assembly Person Hale has one and Deputy Mayor has one. Who wants to go first?
I'm still trying to look mine up here.
The main motion, Madam Mayor.
Oh, we have to have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor, would you
I move to adopt Resolution 23-105.
Okay,
And
thank
I'd
you.
like to offer an amendment if I could.
Okay,
So this is going to sound very familiar to the one I offered earlier. It is the same exact amendment, but we need it to be a priority for both state and federal. So it's in regard to the Point McKenzie. So I move to amend Resolution 23-105 to amend Borough Funding Priority Number 2, Point McKenzie Highway, and change the title to Point McKenzie Multimodal Transportation Corridor. Remove the existing narrative and replace it as follows. The Point McKenzie Multimodal Corridor project would be constructed through an alignment previously designated exclusively for the Port McKenzie Rail Extension Project. This project would support completing the current rail extension project in which the state of Alaska has invested $184 million. The corridor underwent a preliminary environmental and alternatives report in 2008 and an environmental impact study in 2011 in partnership with the Alaska Railroad Corporation to prepare for the railway installation. While it may need further permitting and legislative approval, since the environmental clearance was for a railroad, the corridor has been cleared of vegetation and prepared with a gravel aggregate embankment and 6 single-lane railroad bridges. Due to several unfulfilled funding requests to construct the rail and a growing housing and economic demand, the Mat-Su Borough is proposing to allow 4 corridor use and 18.5-mile 2-lane arterial road next to the rail. This could be used as a utility corridor and would help the Mat-Su Borough goal of connecting goods and services within the fast-growing region. It would provide a boost to the economy and advance transportation options to living wage jobs and housing should the bridge to Anchorage ever be considered. The Point McKenzie Multimodal Utility Corridor would turn this dormant corridor into an essential asset for the Mat-Su. The current estimate to cost of The current estimate to construct a road is 72 million.
Okay. Is there discussion on amendment number 1? Is there any objection to amendment number 1? Okay, hearing none. Then it passes. Assemblyperson Hale, thank you for waiting.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have it here in front of me. I move to amend Resolution 23-105 to include the following under Borough Action Priorities and insert it under B, support for the following Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities federally funded road projects. Old Glen Highway, mileposts 1 to 18. Borough requests ADOT and PF designate the Old Glen Highway as a highway safety corridor and fund the planning, design, and construction of a multi-phase improvement project to address traffic safety concerns and ensure adequate alternative access to interior Alaska. Resolutions from the Butte and South Connect River Community Council support this action. This is the exact same amendment I offered to our state priorities. Thank you.
Discussion on amendment number 2. Any objection on amendment number 2? Okay, not amendment number 2. Any other amendments for resolution 23-105, the priorities for federal legislation?
Possibly, and I got a quick question for the manager. The fish passage culverts, that's obvious. That's been something that has been one of my main passions since I got here. I would like to see them all switched out immediately. I know it doesn't work that way, but what do we have in our federal ask for those, if you don't mind?
So through the mayor, it's listed as priority 7, $1 million. The reality is we apply for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service grants every year. And we usually have a placeholder for a non-federal match in the borough annual budget. So I think that's the more likely option, but we obviously list it here in case there were like a congressionally directed spending request or something like that where there may be additional funding. But so it's 1 million as it's listed in these priorities. But what's more likely is what we continue to apply for on an annual basis through the established grant process.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, and yes, Assemblyperson 2, go ahead.
Okay, so $1 million don't sound like very many culverts. I mean, they're usually like a couple, $600,000 a fish passage. Did I misunderstand what you said?
No, I mean, through the mayor to Mr. 2, I mean, we can make the number whatever you want. There's not a large vehicle for getting federal funding directly. Usually it's done through discretionary grants or formula funding through different state agencies. So it's listed here. We continue to pursue that through whatever the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service program makes available. So I guess back in the day, when there was a lot of earmarks, it was a little bit different. There isn't a lot of that. We do, whenever congressionally directed spending request opens up by one of our senators, we take advantage of that. But it's fairly limited. I mean, so it's listed in the federal priorities. It'll continue to be a priority, and we'll continue to apply for the grants as we've been doing now for a number of years.
Go ahead, sir.
So Fish and Wildlife is where we get the money for the culverts. Yeah, so that's, thank you.
Okay.
So this isn't just an exercise in futility that we just keep doing it year after year after year. I mean, just what comes of it?
Through the mayor to Ms. McKee, we receive usually grants on an annual basis.
Good. Okay.
And we set money aside on an annual basis to continue to feed that program.
Okay.
So it's an annual request that we make, and yes, we've been very successful in receiving funding and getting work done.
Further discussion? Is there any objection to resolution 23-105? Hearing no objection, then resolution 23-105 passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23086, an ordinance adopting MSB 2.29110, procedures for appeals, requests for correction or requests for exemption under MSB 1711, sex offenders, and amending MSB 1711-080, appeals to reference the appeal procedures for MSB 2.29110. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Okay. Is there a staff report?
Miss Brenda.
Hi, Madam Mayor and
Oh,
Assembly. This
okay.
legislation came about as a result of the legislation that Assembly Member Bernier brought forward for 17.11. The hearing officer has the authority to lay out hearing procedures. However, he asked me in the interest for the public to understand what they could expect for the bill to write the procedures. Law had some concerns. We addressed those concerns, and what you have before you is what we're recommending be adopted.
Okay. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-086. We do not have a sign up. Anyone in the audience who would like to address that ordinance? Do we have anybody online? We do not. So we'll close the public hearing, and Assemblyperson Vernier, would you like to move the legislation?
I move to adopt ordinance 23-086.
Okay. Discussion?
Kit.
Any objection to the legislation? Hearing none, the legislation passes. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 23087, an ordinance creating North Kurt Circle Natural Gas Local Improvement District Number 650, approving the improvement plan for the district, authorizing the manager to proceed with the improvement, and assessing equally among the properties within the district the cost of the improvement. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Good evening, ma'am. Go ahead.
Through the mayor to the assembly, Cheyenne Heindel, finance director. Before you is an ordinance creating the natural gas LID. For the LID, 7 ballots were mailed, 7 were returned, all 7 were marked yes.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 23-087. Anyone that would like to testify on this ordinance? Do we have anybody online? We do not. One last chance for anybody here. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and Assemblyperson Hale, would you like to move the legislation?
It's not going to be a single member. I give it.
I move to adopt
Oh, you gave
ordinance
it to-
23.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-087.
Sorry about that, Assemblyperson Hale. My script says one thing and the thing went a different
That
way.
was me.
Okay. So is there any discussion for the assembly on ordinance 23-087? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, then legislation passes. Yeah, I guess you can't get better than 7 out of 7 saying yes, right? We wouldn't dare say no.
Ordinance
Alrighty.
23088, an ordinance creating Easy Street and Cozy Circle Natural Gas Local Improvement District Number 658, approving the improvement plan for the district, authorizing the manager to proceed with the improvement, and assessing equally among the properties within the district the cost of the improvement. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Through the mayor to the assembly, finance director Cheyenne Heindel. Again, before you, the creation of a natural gas LID. For it, 18 ballots were mailed, 12 were returned, 11 marked yes, 1 was marked no.
Okay. Thank you. I will go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-088. Is there anyone here that would like to testify on this ordinance? Do we have anybody online? We do not have anybody online. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Assemblyperson Vernier, would you move the legislation?
I move to adopt ordinance 23-088.
Okay, discussion? Any objection to the legislation? Hearing none, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23096, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $4,750,000 from the Alaska State Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development for the Talkeetna Water and Sewer Line Repairs and Systems Upgrades Project with accompanying resolution 23103, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for the Talkeetna Water Line Repairs and Systems Upgrades Project, and authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with the Alaska Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development Division of Community and Regional Affairs. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Go ahead, madam.
Through the mayor to the assembly, I'm Cheyenne Heindel, finance director. Before you is an accept and appropriate of a grant from the state of Alaska for $4,750,000 for the Talkeetna sewer and water system. It's going to include such repairs as a new water storage tank, a source well, pumps, headworks, and treatment building, and service line repairs, and a variety of other things.
Okay, questions? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing for ordinance 23-096 and resolution 23-103. We do not have a sign-up sheet. Anyone who would like to testify? Do we have anybody online? We do not. Okay, so I will close the public hearing. Assemblyperson Bonner.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-096 and resolution 23-103.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 23097, an ordinance accepting and appropriating January 2022 Matsu windstorm disaster relief funds in the amount of $5,755.79 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and $1,918.59 from the Alaska State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, with accompanying resolution 23106, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for repairs to the Borough fire stations damaged in the January 2022 Matsu windstorms disaster. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Through the mayor to the assembly, Cheyenne Heindel, Finance Director. Before you is it accept and appropriate for a total of $7,674.38 for repairs to various fire stations from both FEMA and Homeland Security.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-097 and resolution 23-106. Is there anyone that would like to testify on either this ordinance or this resolution? Do we have anybody? We do not have anybody online. Don't see anybody moving. I'm going to close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-097 and resolution 23-106.
Discussion. Any objection? Hearing no objection, the legislation has passed.
Ordinance 23098, an ordinance approving the sale of borough-owned property identified as Lot 64, Rustic Wilderness Division 1, to the adjacent property owner, Kane Peacock.
We have a staff report. Okay.
Evening, Eric Phillips, Community Development Director. Through the mayor, this particular piece of property is a substandard lot that we obtained through tax foreclosure about 40 years ago. We finally got an adjacent property owner who made application to purchase it, and we're selling it to them for the tax assessed value. We're very happy to be getting rid of this particular piece of property.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-098. We don't have a sign-up sheet. Does anybody want to testify on this? Are you coming forth to testify, sir? No. Okay.
He's got the next staff report.
Oh, okay. Do we have anybody online? Okay. One last chance for anyone here to testify. Okay, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 23-098. Assemblyperson Bonner.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-098.
Okay, discussion? Any objection? Hearing no objection, ordinance 23-098 has passed.
Ordinance 23099, an ordinance approving an appropriation of $680,000 from the Central Matsu Fire Service Area Fund balance to purchase a FIROVAC tender and related equipment, with accompanying resolution 23107, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for a project to purchase a new FIROVAC tender and related equipment for Central Matsu Fire Service Area. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff report, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Assembly Member, and staff. Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services. So this company is called FIROVAC. We've ordered 3-4 trucks from them over the years, and they've been very good company to work with, and we've had great success with them. And recently, they had one of the trucks going through the assembly line, and the company, the fire department, was going to buy it, backed out. So we were in talks with them for purchasing trucks in the future, and they said, we got one here now, and they reduced the price by about $100,000 if we
Wow.
want it. It's in our schedule for replacement, and this will include shipping and the equipment to get it up here. So we didn't want to pass up on this opportunity. Right now, to get a fire truck, if it's approved, it's generally 3 years to get a fire truck right now. We would have this one about a year, a little over a year, year and a half at the most, if we got this one right now. So that's one of the main reasons, and this would replace a 1991 truck. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Good, thank you. Questions, staff? No? I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-099 and resolution 23-107. We do not have a sign up. Anybody would like to testify? Anybody online? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And let's see, who, Deputy Mayor?
I move to adopt ordinance 23-099 and resolution 23-107. And I'm 99% sure I know the answer to this, but I do have one quick question, and that is that we're not using any debt. A head nod's fine, but we're paying cash for it. Yep, paying cash for it. So, yep, you've got my full support. Thank you, sir.
Mhm. Further discussion on ordinance 23-099? Go ahead, sir.
I support this totally. If we can save 100,000, you can buy a pickup or something.
Okay. Is there any objection to the legislation? Yes.
Just a question, not an objection.
Mhm.
What happened to the 1991 truck? Where are you again?
Yes. Mhm.
And yes, it's a good deal if we really need it.
Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services, and I apologize for sitting down. I thought we were done.
It's okay.
The 1991 will be evaluated through our fleet services. If there are no safety issues, we will look at which department in the rural departments that could use it, and it will be transferred there. Right now, it looks like it may end up going to Sutton Fire Department. That has not been determined yet, but most likely that's where it'll end up because they're in greater need of that type of truck.
And what does this thing do?
It's got a fire pump, ladders, fire equipment on it, and it hauls water.
So it's actually a regular fire truck.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Is there any objection to ordinance 23-099 and resolution 23-107? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. The next item on the agenda is audience participation. We do have a sign-up sheet. The first person is Travis, but I think he is gone. He had to leave at 9. And Dan Strickland. That gentleman gone also. Michelle LaRose. Okay.
I think we need a break. I have to take a nap.
Thank you, Mayor and Assembly. My name is Michelle LaRose. I'm the treasurer of Curry Ridge Riders and also instrumental in public relations. We formed in 1996 to oversee an area of the Matsu Borough that includes also Denali State Park, which is used for recreational purposes, and through the decades has become a major land investment for cabin owners who own significant property in that area. Inasmuch as we are concerned for the future of that area, we find ourselves at a time whenever we're actually retracting the ability to accommodate the number of people that are using this land, primarily because of the privatization of the borough. It is not so possible to recreate as much as it used to be in this immediate area where people are venturing further north, which is centered between Petersville and Trapper Creek. Inasmuch, I did bring some maps if anybody would like to review this, but we are actually shrinking our ability to accommodate the vehicles in parking. And it became very apparent to me today that this just became an issue where we're going to lose one of the major parking lots that serves along the Parks Highway and is easement for the DOT. And their good graces over the many decades, they've actually removed the snow to make it accessible for that parking lot, and now are saying their budget doesn't allow them to do that. As a result, we're going to lose that parking lot, which is very significant in our ability to respond to our maintenance to the trail system, including grooming and clearing, and also emergency evacuation. A lot of this area that is in question right now is a significant wilderness area accessing Denali State Park. So my purpose here tonight is to introduce to the borough the need to address this large, it's 115 square mile area, to address the needs for this area coming in the future, because there will be a lot of public comment coming about this. There are a lot of invested cabin owners or property owners and a lot of recreational use of that area. And significantly speaking, the state of Alaska, the Denali State Park ran a photographic counter of the daily use of the area. And during the peak season, they estimated in 2012, 500 plus trail users per day at the peak season. That's a lot of people. And there's a lot of chance for a need for emergency medication or emergency medvac. Thank you.
And if you
I'll
want to
leave the
give
maps here.
if you want to just hand them here to the clerk and she can, distribute them. Thank you very
They
much.
aren't current, but the trail markers are all current on there. And if I may say, the area in question that I'm speaking of tonight about the issue of losing the parking area is on the upper right side. It's a blue P square on the upper right side. It's milepost 131.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Karen Lewis, Jackie and John and Sally, I guess.
Don't start my time yet.
Oh, okay. We won't start your time for a minute.
These beautiful flowers are in appreciation for the good work that was done with the election. I want to thank the Assembly for making it possible to not have machines and to hand count and hand count at the precinct and to have the knowledge of what happened the night of, correct? Or was it the next day? It was, right there. And then also it cost 1/3 of what the machines would have cost. And I was talking with Edna and she said, you know what? Lonnie did a great job. Lonnie did a really good job. She said she was on it. She was going all over, making sure everything was done properly. So I'd like to give you all flowers, but they're kind of expensive. This is for Lonnie. This is for Lonnie. So thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Lonnie. So this next part isn't so fun. We have a wonderful Attorney General. We have a great Attorney General. I was so thankful to see this come out on Thursday. He's addressing the school and public libraries and the librarians and them allowing obscene material for our children to see. And as you know, we as the adults are here to protect our beautiful children. I've lived here almost 40 years. It'll be 39 years this January. I love this sweet town. I love this sweet small town. It's, it's beautiful. And when you think libraries are a good place. I did until like April, I think it was March or April. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. And there's a lot of it. There's almost 100 books if you count the school and the borough. So, and the city libraries. We just had another city challenge, and nope, they're going to leave it right where it is in the 14-year-old area, and they call 14-year-olds young adults. So we're going to ask you to form a committee, and you can do it any way you want. Maybe one from each district or district. I don't know. You'll figure it out, and I trust that you will do the right thing because you are a moral group of people. So just to elaborate a little bit on what the Attorney General did, we were focusing on the distribution of indecent materials to minors, but he added 2 more. The enticement of a minor. To prove this offense, the state is required to prove the following when it goes into it. The defendant was 18 years of age or older. The defendant knowingly communicated with another person to entice, solicit, or encourage the person to engage in any of the following acts: sexual penetration, the lewd touching of another person's genitals, anus, or breast, the lewd touching by another person of a child's genitals, anus, or breast. Is that me?
Yeah, but go
Okay.
ahead, since you spent some time giving the flowers. So go ahead.
You're sweet. And the third one is contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And those are two other really good charges that need to be looked at. And you know what? We're going to get our beautiful borough cleaned up. I know we will. So thank you.
Okay, Jackie?
Madam Mayor and Assembly, my name is Jackie Goforth. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you. I want you to know that the definition of fascism is a tendency toward or actual exercise of strong autocratic or dictatorial control. That's exactly what the library policy is. They control everything. The policy to purchase books is controlled by them. The procedure to object to material is controlled by them. The original meeting is controlled by them. The required timeline is controlled by them. The reconsideration hearing is controlled by them. The reconsideration hearing, the rules are controlled by them. The ambiguity about the rule is controlled by them. The members of the meeting are controlled by them. The access to the discussion and or evaluation is controlled by them. The decision is library controlled by them. Everything is library controlled by them. It's a policy, and yet there's no public input anywhere. Now, I want you to see that the first policy that they sent me says at the top of it, it was dated February 21st, I think. It says, after you send your paperwork in, within 20 working days, you will have a hearing set up. You do see that, right? Okay. Well, that's 30 days. Well, when that time expired, I wrote back about 3 days after it expired and said, what happened? And they said, oh, we changed it. And you see the change. The change is anytime we get around to it. The change is a reasonable time frame given workload considerations. I want you to know I have one going in two of them going in right now that I started this process on June 6th. June 6th. June 6th. And I still don't have the hearing. I'm still bugging them. So since we have a policy that is set up totally fascist driven, the librarians and librarian people, and they get to decide absolutely everything on it. I had a hearing here about the book sold. It was a 45-minute hearing, and I got to speak for 7 minutes. 5 minutes and then 3 minutes for 2 questions. All the rest of the time was controlled by librarians and librarian board members talking about what they were going to do and how wonderful the book was and how wonderful the reviews were. So I have drafted up a proposal, please, that basically says, because at the bottom of that you can see it says that that policy is in place unless voided and amended by the borough. That's you guys. Okay, so my recommendations are void and place in abeyance that policy, and form a citizens advisory committee, however you want to do it. Please have them meet and revise 2 portions of that. Number 1, the material selection policy. It should have in there somewhere that they have to adhere to the law. They can't just go by how wonderful the reviews are and everything else they use. And the second one should be the challenged materials reconsideration process should have some input for the public or some other people on the hearing that aren't just librarians and librarian board members, because it's like talking to a wall. So I'm going to give this to the clerk to please.
I won't. Thank you very much for the flowers. It is appreciated.
You can smell them up here. Can you smell them? I can. Yeah, they're very, very good. Tim Leach?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Assembly members, and staff. My name is Tim Leach, and I'm here on behalf of Hatcher Pass Avalanche Center. I'm a board member on the Hatcher Pass Avalanche Center, otherwise known as HPAC for short, to keep some of the comments brief here. And I'm here to thank you very much, thank the borough for the support that you have provided in this past year, as well as pledged for the next 2 years. As many of you already know, HPAC, we're your local nonprofit grassroots avalanche center here, and we're providing the public safety announcements that we provide through the forecasts, the snowpack observations, the training, and the avalanche training and awareness and education work that we do. As a nonprofit, community support is really critical, as I'm sure many of you have experienced in your own lives. Really, that is the backbone. Community support and funding is the backbone of nonprofit work, and certainly that's true for us with HPAC as well. And the borough stepping forward as it has in this past year and for the next 2 years is a critical component of that. Your support, your funding there matches the individual and corporate donations as well as other grants to help us serve the mission that we have there. And in particular, what is translated from that funding is to increase the amount of forecasts that we do from 1 weekly forecast in the winter season to 2 forecasts during the week in the winter season. And that has increased public safety and has allowed us to continue providing that forecast for all the users in the Hatcher Pass region. As you have seen, if you've seen our website, hpavalanche.org, each week we have those avalanche forecasts put out also on the Instagram pages and such. Those forecasts, we last year put out 51 of those, and those are the regular weekly ones. When big storm cycles roll through, as we certainly experienced some even recently this season, we put out additional advisories for those weather events. That information is sent out through those platforms I mentioned. Last year, we've been able to record for those announcements. They reach anywhere between 1,000 and 21,000 users per post. So that's a pretty large audience, if you will, and a fairly efficient use of getting the word out for these risks that are out there. As you may also know, the information that we provide, those forecasts that we provide, the snowpack observations that we do help inform the safety recommendations to to the state parks and DOT. Very briefly, I'll mention that we do also the training and the education in the schools here, as well as with Matt Sarr and the Borough EMS service. And again, thank you so much for the support. Without that, we really wouldn't be able to do the job. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the assembly? Okay. The person on the phone, if you'd go ahead, please. Did we lose them? Okay. What did he say?
They hung up.
Oh, they hung up. Okay. Okay. All right.
They're back.
Oh, they're back. Okay. All righty. So if the person that's on the phone.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Travis again. I had to leave early and I found out that you can be on the phone and participate, just learning how to use it. So as I said, I'm Travis and this is what I really want to talk about. And I've written this all out so I won't have to have a blank mind when I speak about it.
Okay.
Today's agenda is in regards to recycling. As I once mentioned before, I like to see more recycling bins, not just around Palmer, but in the valley. I mean, you already did a ban on plastic bags, so in favor of paper bags, with the exception of maybe places like Walmart and Lowe's and stuff like that. So I think this idea of recycle bins in businesses is feasible. Think about it. If Palmer can raise up money for bicycles for its police force, bikes that cost about over $1,000 each, how much more recycle bins you can buy with the same amount of funds that were used to buy the bikes? Here's a concept I wanted to introduce to you: negative freedom and positive freedom. Negative freedom is simply not being forced to do anything, while positive freedom is the freedom to do anything. What does this have to do with recycling? Well, a lot, because with the induction of recycle bins next to trash cans, people can have the choice to save the environment or not. When I go into Fred Meyer's, they have a recycle bin for cardboard, and brown bags. And whenever I pass a trash can, if I see a cardboard box in there, I immediately take it out and put it into the recycle bin, because that's where it belongs. and that's what, and I hope that I'll be able to get other people on the board passionate about recycling, to have recycle bins across Palmer and Wasilla and all other communities for that matter. That's what I would like to share. I'd like to thank you for listening to this. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Travis, for finding us. So, anyone else online? No? Anyone else here that would like to address these? Yeah, Sally, come forward.
My name is Sally Pollitt. I live in Palmer, Alaska. Thank you all for doing the work that you're doing. I was sitting back here and I really did appreciate all the different topics that you discuss. But I was thinking it would be really helpful if you had a big map talking about the road system that you were spent a lot of time on. And then this lady back here was talking about what she was talking about, the horse trails, I think it was. Anyway, several times tonight, I was thinking it would be so helpful if somebody had a map and a pointer regarding where some of these issues were taking place and decisions had to be made on. So anyway, that's all I had.
Good. Thank you. We appreciate suggestions. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close audience participation. Now we are to the point of consent agenda. There were some items pulled earlier, but is anybody on the assembly have additional items that they would like to pull? Okay, so Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Resolution 23099, a resolution amending the spending plan for the American Rescue Plan funding for elementary school water systems, Talkeetna Water System, and projects associated with the central landfill. Resolution 23109, a resolution to waive user fees for the Matanuska Ski Club, Valley Mountain Bikers and Hikers, Boy and Girl Scouts, Alcoholics Anonymous, local schools, and community councils. Resolution 23113, a resolution directing the manager to waive land use permit fees for the Curry Ridge Riders. Resolution 23114, a resolution amending the scope of work for the floating dive platform project to include the purchase of needed off-road rescue equipment and vehicles for the Department of Emergency Services. Resolution 23116, a resolution in support of the certified local government grant application for interpretive signs is signed by the manager and submitted to the Alaska State Historic Preservation Office. Resolution 23119, establishing dates for payment, delinquency, protest, and appeal of the 2024 regular assessment and tax rolls and for the commencement of the hearings before the Board of Equalization. Resolution 23122, a resolution amending the scopes of work for the website upgrade and the Geographic Information System online mapping projects. AM 23114, authorization to vacate the public use easement recorded on 11/28/2017 at reception number 2017-0401-540 to allow for a creation of a new access street for Kinnick River Place located in Section 30, Township 16 North, Range 4 East, Seward Meridian. AM 23116, awarded bid number 24056C to Braun Northwest Incorporated in the contract amount of $448,340 to remount 2 ambulances. AM 23117, approval of contract extension for contract number 22055P with Stantec Consulting Services to extend the final completion date to December 31st, 2025 for Selden Extension Phase 2 right-of-way mapping. AM 23121, approval of contract amendment number 5 to contract number 231B with Orion Construction to extend the contract completion date to August 30th, 2024 for the construction of emergency services warm storage building. AM 23122, approval of task order amendment number 1 for HDL Engineering Consultants for the Jolly Creek Drainage Improvement Task Order under contract number 2117PA to add $136,250 and extend to December 31st, 2025 for engineering services on Cherrywood Drive. AM 23123, authorization to award invitation to bid 246B to Western Marine Construction in an amount not to exceed $9,500,000 to construct Port McKenzie improvements. AM 23124, Approval of contract amendment number 4 for contract 2263P with Moffett and Nickel for design barge haul out ramp for Port McKenzie to add $615,915 for additional design services and add an additional change order authority in the amount of $100,000 for redesign coordination for the pile sleeves project. And AM 23125 awarded bid number 2447B to Orient Construction in the contract amount of $749,900 to construct improvements at the animal care facility.
Okay. Deputy Mayor. So should we take up, we should have the motion to adopt these first
Yes.
and then take up
Yep.
the individual ones. So Deputy
ma'am.
Mayor, please.
I move to approve. I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved, but then we do have some pulled ones. So Madam Clerk.
First one is AM 23115, Matanuska-Susitna Borough Assembly Regular and Joint Meeting scheduled for 2024. This was pulled by Assembly Member Yunt.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. So originally I pulled it because
You
I
have to
had,
move it.
oh yeah, I apologize. I'd like to move EM 23-115, and if I may speak to it.
Go ahead, sir.
So originally I'd pulled it because July 2nd jumped out a little bit there. I was a little concerned with 4th of July. That's a tough time, but I found out, I think in code, we don't have any meetings that week. So we cannot have the week because I think it just, for obvious reasons, whatever assembly a long time ago passed that was so people could spend 4th of July with their family. So I was a little confused about that, but it sounds like we're not going to have it. So, and then as I've done every year since I've been elected, I have adjusted or asked to adjust the second meeting in September so that people who go moose hunting, and that's a good portion of Alaska, can do so without having to worry about missing one of these meetings. We do oftentimes discuss outdoor issues here and things that could be of concern to that community. And so it's a big time of year for Alaska. And so I'm proposing to move the September 17th meeting, and we can open this up for discussion, but either to the 10th or the 24th, or just not have it. I have had staff tell me that we may not need a second meeting in September. We do the same thing in July. We only have one. So I'll propose, I guess to start out with, I'll just propose moving it into the 10th. And then that way people can enjoy the end of moose season. Some units end on the 20th, some units end on the 25th. So I think the 10th would be ideal. Or if staff thinks we don't need it, then we can discuss that as well. So.
Okay. Madam Clerk, did you need to address any of those? You're fine. Okay.
Can I amend that for bow hunting?
Is there any objection to the amendment to AM 23-115? Hearing no objection, then the amendment passes. Then do we need to move on it as amended?
The main motion, yeah.
Right. So now you have the main motion as amended on AM 23-115 before you. Is there any objection to the main motion as amended? Hearing none, and I can't even see you guys
Oh,
down
sorry.
there. That's all right. They can yell. Okay. So that legislation now passes as amended. And Madam Clerk?
AM 23118, authorization to vacate the 50-foot wide public use easement from Tract 1A, South Big Lake, Alaska subdivision plat number 664, located within Northwest Quarter, Section 36, Township 17 North, Range 4 West, Seward Meridian, and this was pulled by Assemblymember McKee.
Okay, Assemblymember McKee, will you want to move that and then address your question?
Yes, I move to adopt AM 23-118. And it's
Okay.
really going to be very short. I don't know what that means when they vacate a 50-foot wide, which is kind of wide, public use easement. Where does that go? To whom does it go? What do you do with that?
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Through the mayor to Ms. McKee. So it's an easement on a piece of property somebody owns. So we're vacating the easement that overlays what they own. So the property's theirs already.
But they
Public
just-
use easement just means we can use it for public purposes and we're removing that.
And we're removing that, so it goes just back
Correct.
to, okay, that was simple. Okay, I'm done.
All right.
That.
Further discussion? Any objection to AM 23-118? Hearing no objection, then legislation passes. And Madam Clerk.
AM 23-119, authorizing the beginning leave accrual rate of 9.6919 hours per pay period for the new borough assessor. This was pulled by Assemblymember McKee.
Okay. Go ahead and move it, please. And then
I move to adopt AM 23-119.
Okay.
And I'd like to ask Cheyenne about this. Certainly in this gentleman's case, this is a particular instance, so perhaps what I have to address could be set aside for a later time. The guy was there for years before, so he met the 5-year requirement for the extra leave time. So I don't object to that at all. What I do object to, and I was astounded at, I mean, some of these people, when do they go to work? Because that's a month, isn't it? Isn't it like 30 days? Twice, two pay periods?
Yes, it is.
So a guy could be gone for, you're there 5 years and you get 30 days off, and then you got to hire somebody to take that person's place. So you've got double dipping on expenses with the taxpayers' dollars to, who else gives that kind of leave time?
Go ahead.
Through the mayor to
Jeez Louise,
to Ms. McKee,
never mind.
I would love to talk to you about this. I would prefer we do it
Okay.
off the record. I mean, because it feeds into collective bargaining agreement. There's more in play than just the leave accrual rates. I'm happy to sit down and walk you through that. There are other provisions that affect this that I think you would probably want to know more about. But it's not relevant to the AM that's
To
before
this
the body tonight.
particular one, yeah, and I have no objection to
I-
this one. I just want somebody to tell me, I bet there's people out there that get 3 months a year off. It's like, dear God,
I'll definitely share
I
my
want-
feelings with you.
I want to apply for that job. So we're done. Thank you. And I would love to talk to you about that.
So we have a new borough assessor that's sitting at the table here. Is that since you're applying for that job?
Oh, yeah. 30 days off. Do that.
Please be sure to get in before tax assessment notices go out. You'll be super popular.
Yeah. Yep. That's hazardous duty.
Further discussion on AM 23-119. Any objection? Hearing none, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
AM 23-120, approval of contract amendment number 15 for contract 2038B with MTA Communications in the amount of $1,179.82 for the addition of managed public Wi-Fi at Port McKenzie.
Okay.
Pulled by Assemblymember McKee.
Okay. Would you move that, please, ma'am?
Which one?
AM 23-120.
120?
Mm-hmm.
I think I pulled the wrong one. I pulled the wrong one.
Okay, well, go ahead and move it and we'll
Okay,
scurry
I
through
moved
it.
to adopt AM 23-120, and I'd like to speak to it. I'm fully in favor of it. We're done. I'm done.
Is there any objection to AM 23-120? Hearing no objection, then the legislation passes. Is that it, ma'am?
That is it. We are at
Okay.
introductions, Madam Mayor, and these are for introduction for public hearing on 12/19. Ordinance 23094. Ordinance 23100 with accompanying resolution 23115. Ordinance 23101. Ordinance 23102 with accompanying resolution 23117. Ordinance 23103. Ordinance 23104 with accompanying resolution 23118. Ordinance 23105 with accompanying resolution 23120. Ordinance 23106 with accompanying resolution 23121. Ordinance 23107 with accompanying resolutions 23124.
Deputy Mayor, will you please move the legislation or the introductions? I'm sorry.
I actually don't have that here.
Okay.
I move to introduce the introductions as read into the record by the clerk
Okay.
and set the public hearing for December 19th, 2023.
Okay. Is there discussion? Is there objection? Hearing none, the legislation has been introduced. Deputy Mayor, would you address the vacancy report, please?
I think somebody's mad at me. This is the biggest vacancy report I've ever seen in my life. This is bigger than the whole year combined, I think. All right, here goes nothing. So I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Borough Area School Site Selection Committee, Wilfred Fernandez. Enhanced 911 Advisory Board, resignation of Jacob Butcher. Library Board, resignation of Mary Patches. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Bethany Buckingham Follett, resignation of Benjamin Ott. Plating Board, Brian Goodman. Water Body Setback Advisory Board, resignation of Misty Massey. Talkeetna Sewer and Water Service Area Number 36, Ryan Sheldon. With terms beginning January 1st, 2024. Board of Adjustment and Appeals, Jay Van Diest. Board of Equalization, Ken Kincaid. Enhanced 911 Advisory Board, Joel Butcher. Health and Social Services Board, Catherine John Schwartz, Janet Ingen. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Simon Brown, Kara Cahill, Jesse Christensen, Norman Straub, William Morrow. Matsu Borough Fish and Wildlife Commission, Kendra Zamzow, Peter Probasco, Andrew Couch, and Jim Sykes. Planning Commission, Kurt Scoggins. Transportation Advisory Board, Randy Den Durham II. Butte FSA, Gregory Nilsson. Caswell Lakes FSA, Randall Sparks. Central Matsu FSA, David Eller. Greater Palmer FSA, Barry Mothershead. West Lakes FSA, Randall Newcomb. Willow FSA, Ronald Forsyth. Big Lake RSA, Mark Fish. Garland Morrison, Caswell Lakes RSA, Donna McBride. Kinnick RSA, Gary Foster. Lazy Mountain RSA, Robert Stone. Midway RSA, Daniel Tucker. North Colony RSA, Austin Grimes. South Colony RSA, Rhonda Stark. Talkeetna Sewer and Water Service Area, James Kellard. And that is all.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the vacancy report? Okay, hearing none, the vacancy report has been approved. There is no other new business, there are no referrals, and there are no reconsiderations. And under Mayor, Assembly, and staff comments, Deputy Mayor, if you would move us past the 10 o'clock, because we will probably at 10 o'clock be in the executive session. So I'll go to the two Assembly people online to see if they have parting comments. Assembly Person Hale, do you have parting comments, sir?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank Assembly Member Twos for his service. It's been a pleasure working with you, sir.
Okay. Assembly Person Nowers.
I would just say I'm sorry I wasn't there in person tonight. I'm nursing a bad back again, and also wanted to thank Assembly Member Hughes for his service. And although we have not always agreed on things, I wish you well in your endeavors, and I expect calls from you when you have prices on equipment that the borough is buying, so you can tell me what the actual price should be.
Mr. Attorney, parting comments?
Yeah, Assemblymember 2, it's been a fast 3 years. I hope you are well versed in the Open Meetings Act and all the other things that we've had lots of conversations about and talking. I've appreciated kicking ideas around with you and coming up with solutions, and wish you all the best. Don't be afraid to call. Look forward to seeing you in the future.
Assembly Person McKee.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm gonna have you on speed dial because I've been sitting next to you for 2 years, and I appreciate so much your advice. And you do that clever thing that Stephanie was talking about, pulling an invoice out of your pocket, say, no, I can get it for you cheaper, kind of a thing. And I really appreciate I think you're a fine man with high moral principles and a great granddad. But for many, many reasons, I have enjoyed very much working with you for the last 2 years. Bless you.
Assembly Person 2, parting comments?
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I really enjoyed it. And before I started on the assembly to speak in the public, there was no way I could do it. You guys, through this process, that's really helped me out that way, brought me a lot of inner strength to talk in the public. One thing that I'm very proud of is in the Big Lake area, you guys all know that I fought for roads and I fought for roads and I fought for roads and I'll keep fighting for roads. But in the Big Lake area, by changing it from a 3-board member to a 5-board RSA member, what you have done is you have allowed more of the people's words, more of the people's ideas to come forward to talk to the borough about what they want their community to look like. As a 3-board member, a 3-board party, none of those folks could ever talk to each other, not unless they went to a meeting. Now with a 5-board, what happens is 2 people can talk and 2 people can talk. So that's 4 people talking about roads. And then when they come to their meetings, which before I became the assembly person, the RSA up there in 21, I think they had 2 meetings in 1 year. And now we have a meeting every month. And so I look forward to helping them facilitate it, getting better and better and better. But I would tell you that that's probably one of the big things that I'll remember forever. And thank you very much for working with all you guys. It's been fantastic. Yeah, thanks.
Assemblyperson Benier, parting comments.
I have to echo, it's been a real pleasure working with you, Moki. You've opened my eyes to a lot of stuff in contracting and where the borough is spending X amount of dollars that we're getting, that we should be watching our P's and Q's. And really, you've been a great asset to our assembly and a great friend. So, God bless you.
Mr. Manager, parting comments.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll say, I'm going to call you Moki. I usually refer to you more formally when I'm up here at the dais, but I appreciate, you and Mr. Yutt and I came in about the same time, within like a day of one another. So we've been kind of on this journey and this learning curve a bit. And I don't think the public truly appreciates the sacrifice that our elected officials make. You all don't get paid a lot. And you have a lot of people calling you, wanting things, and you give a lot of your time. I appreciate that, Moki. I really appreciate. I've always known where you're coming from. You've never left me guessing, and that means a lot because it just makes my job a whole lot easier when I'm juggling 7 or 8 balls, aka bosses. It just makes it a whole lot easier for me. So best of luck to you. I'm sure I'm probably still in your contact list, and I'll probably still get some phone calls.
Madam Clerk, parting remarks.
Well, Assembly Member 2, I've enjoyed working with you over the last 3 years, and I'm going to miss your sense of humor. I really liked what you gave Nick for his what do you call it? Review. The screw you gave him. So the humor goes a long way with me, and I've appreciated it. You're going to be missed.
Assemblyperson Fana, parting comments.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to add to everybody's the echo that we work as a team. One person here can't get it done. That's just the reality of it. And when it comes to the principle, how we reflect here public in the Matzo Borough, I could say that, Moki, you spoke, and when it comes to the values, we knew that, that's what people want. It wasn't afraid. It wasn't tiptoe around certain organized efforts to try to change public opinion. But I'm going to miss that. But I also going to look forward working with a new assembly bill to continue the path that we've started. I think this was the meeting that was nicest to you out of all the being. Usually you get more attacked, but today everybody said a lot of good things to you, and I want to say remember this as we do appreciate it, fellow assembly. We do. You heard that even from people who vote on the opposite side of you directly as well, and we'll look forward to moving in the right direction, working together. Once in a while, maybe we'll reach out to just pick your brains or ask for certain advice, maybe in the certain departments that that I could get additional knowledge, and it's going to be we're going to continue work as a team, you know, and let's make this safe community where we are proud to be, and civility as well, because I noticed that when we're trying to fight, usually it's not the best way to get the results. But when we're working together, that's where we can create actually things that people ultimately appreciate. And we're going to continue to represent our conservative Matsu Borough and not be afraid about it. And if somebody doesn't like it, well, you know, we'll probably get you a replacement for that one person who doesn't like it, because there's a lot of people moving here. So thank you so much. And thank you for this meeting as well.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as Manager Brown had mentioned, Moki and the manager and I, we came in together. So we all went on this journey together in this learning curve, and it's for sure, it takes some time to get used to this, but you know, a lot of people don't know this. I was Houston Middle School's head wrestling coach for 5 years when I was younger. It was, I guess I started in 2004 or 5 or something. So anyway, I got to see firsthand coaching those kids in that community, getting to know the young ones out there, and a lot of the families that were grateful. And I've never told you this, but we're grateful to you. And I actually heard from one of the teachers at Houston the other day about all of the things that your family has done in that community to help. And I thought that was pretty cool. But I want to mention a few things. So just at the dump alone, the refuse compaction contract came across the table for us to vote up or down here recently. And there was a lot of extra equipment in there, way more than it takes to do the job. And Moki noticed that, and was the borough was able to go back to the contractor that was awarded it and say, hey, we maybe don't need all this. That savings is over $200,000 a year, right? We're now crushing our own gravel at the dump. That was 100% you. That has the potential to save us millions of dollars for RSAs in the future, as we're now, instead of paying people to take our gravel away, we're crushing it ourselves and selling it to the RSAs cheaper. The tipping floor, as mentioned earlier, 100% Moki. At least a half a dozen impassable roads out there that you fixed. Got the West Lakes added to tip 21, Jolly Creek to 2023, $250,000 grant for the J. Nolfi Park, 40 more thousand to the Lions Club. And this was just the stuff I could think of off the top of my head today. So I, you know, as a guy that started coaching out there a long time ago, and I've always cared very much about the Big Lake area and paid extra attention to it since my 5 years of coaching out there. And some of these things that I rattled off here, I just wanted to say, man, I appreciate the hard work. This is not an easy thing to do up here. It's really easy, actually, if you choose to do nothing. And that's not the path I chose when I got here. It's not the path I want to see anybody do. So come in here, get some good stuff done. And when you leave the place leave it better than you found it. And I will say you darn sure did that. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, would you?
I'd also like to make a motion to extend the meeting from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock.
Any
I'm
objection?
going to make that till midnight. We have executive
Midnight?
session.
Okay.
I don't want to have our backs against the wall. I'm going to make it till midnight, and then we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Assembly person 2.
I think I'm gonna have a lot to say in executive. Can we do that 3? Just asking.
Is there any objection to extending the closing time for the assembly until midnight? Okay. So thanks, Moki. You pushed me in some areas that I probably prefer not to get pushed in, but it makes for a good friendship. And so thank you. I appreciate getting to know you. And I know I'll see you around, and I know you will reach out to me. So keep me accountable. Thank you. Let's see. Should I have him do the motion first for the executive session before I do the conflict, or should I do the conflict now? Now? Okay. So at the last meeting that we had, Assembly Person 2 and Yount declared a conflict. I ruled on this before, but I wanted to say it for the record again. Assembly Person 2, as long as we are talking about all of the contractors and their claims and the impacts to the borough overall, My ruling is that you do not have a conflict. However, if we get to the point that we'll be talking just about Ficklin construction and anything unique to them, my ruling would be that you would have a conflict and you should ask that you be excused from the discussions. Assemblyperson Yon, Deputy Mayor, as long as you are talking about all of the contractors and their claims and the impacts to the borough overall, my ruling is that you do not have a conflict. However, if we get to the point that we would be talking just about Big Dipper and anything unique to them, my ruling would be that you do have a conflict, and I would ask that you be excused from the discussion. I'll give this to the
Yes, ma'am.
clerk. So we're at the point now of executive session. Deputy Mayor, would you move us into executive session, please?
I move to enter executive session for matters which the immediate public knowledge of would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the borough, and matters which by law, municipal charter, or ordinance are required to be kept confidential, and to discuss matters involving consideration of borough records that by large are not subject to public disclosure, and discussion of matters subject to attorney-client privilege, in particular to discuss snow removal claims submitted by road service area contractors. Those in executive session will be the mayor, the assembly, the manager, the attorney, the clerk, George Hayes, Cheyenne Hendel, and Bill Gamble.
Any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
I'd like to make an amendment. I would move to add Assemblymember-elect Bill Gamble to the executive session.
Ma'am, did you hear the motion?
Oh,
His
I
name
did,
was,
but,
his name was included.
okay, never mind. I withdraw.
Okay, thank you. Any other objection? Hearing no objection, we are now entering into executive session at 9:49.
Assemblymember Hale and Nowers, give me a second to get down.